5:00, and the Warwick City Council Finance Committee meeting is called to order. Acceptance.
Councilman, you
Sir.
have to hang on 1 second, please.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, Phil.
No problem.
What's going on?
Councilman, we are on YouTube and we have started the webinar, but at this moment there are no attendees, but you can proceed. It is open. Oh, we have one attendee, so it is open. Yes.
Okay, very good. So I need motion to accept the minutes of the meeting held on October 19th.
I'm going to abstain from that. I was not at that meeting.
Councilman
Motion to
Howard,
accept.
we have a motion to accept. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we have 2 yeas and 1 abstention. Just a reminder, Councilman McAllister, you have to do the abstention form. Oh, no, I'm sorry. You're not recusing. You're just abstaining because you weren't at the meeting, right? Okay. Okay. First item is PCO 100-20. It is item 2020-094 found on page 1, and that is maintenance and repairs for ice arenas.
James Scott, Parks and Recreation Department. Hello, Mr. Chairman. Hello, Councilman.
Hello, James. How are you?
Not bad. The Parks and Recreation Department is requesting under section 612 to increase the cap on the bid with North Star Refrigeration by $40,000 to a total of $122,000. At a previous meeting, we had requested an increase or an extension of the contract. We had not requested monies that meeting because I was kind of planning ahead, trying to see what we needed as far as emergency repairs and triage of maintenance that have been not performed in previous years.
Okay. Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Do we have any questions from members of the public? James, I have a few questions. I actually have some pretty significant concerns with this company. So, who is responsible for verifying the qualifications of contractors that are coming into city property? And who is responsible for verifying that they have insurance and that they're registered with the Secretary of State, et cetera?
I have all the information. I can scan and send it to you in the morning, but I have all of their licenses. I have their info, Secretary of State, I have their insurance.
That's not the question I asked, though. The question I asked is who is responsible for acquiring that information from a vendor?
I do know that when, I don't want to speak for purchasing, but when they approve bids, they receive the insurance and letter of good standing with the bid package, I would assume.
Who oversees the activities, performance, et cetera, of the contractors that are working on city property? In this particular case, at the ice arena, who oversees North Star Refrigeration?
That would be me, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
North Star Refrigeration has a bid to do maintenance on the compressors at the ice rink.
Mm-hmm.
It's a specific machine that exists like in and of itself, and they had the bid to do that maintenance on there. They're in their second year. There's another company that had the bid before that, and I'm assuming the previous manager or parks director would oversee that work as well.
Okay. Are you familiar with the work that was done somewhat recently at the rear ice rink by North Star Refrigeration?
Work at they were worked on the ice compressors recently, yes.
So how is it that the contractor was working there without a permit?
Well, Mr. Chairman, they have a bid to do that work. May I question, do we have a whole history of permits that were issued for the HVAC maintenance people that worked on the compressors before?
I couldn't tell you that. It's not my job to oversee them. What I'm asking about is that particular repair by this particular company that you're looking to extend their bid. And when we look at these bidders, one of the things that is important is the lowest responsible bidder. So my question is, how did it come to be that this contractor was discovered working over there without a permit?
Mr. Chairman, I've seen nothing. I've seen no requirement that there has to be a permit pulled to do maintenance on the machine. Do we have, I mean, if I have somebody come in, so we need, this is a separate machine. They're not running electrical wire through the building. They're not building an addition on the building. They have a bid to work on this specific machine. And that bid's been in place since long before my time with the city.
You say they have a bid in place for a specific machine? That's it? Just that machine?
The compressors at the ice rink are machines and they keep the ice moving. There's the compressor, there's a glycol pump. So it's my understanding that with that bid, they're allowed to work on those particular machines.
Well, it's
The
my
components
understanding
associated with
that
them.
do that work, it required a permit and there was no permit taken out. That's my understanding. And perhaps you should check into the building code and see if that information is accurate, because this came from a very reliable source. And the other thing that concerns me is that at the time that work was going on in that rear ice rink, that North Star Refrigeration's insurance had lapsed. How is it that they were working in a city building without insurance, particularly on something as valuable as that piece of machinery was? They were working in that building with a lapsed insurance policy. How did that happen?
Their insurance policy was not lapsed, it turned out. I can send that to you. It was my understanding when a entity is awarded bid, they send the insurance to the purchasing office. So if that's not the process, then I will directly ask for the insurance from every bid that we award. But in the past, it's come over with package from purchasing.
Well, when a bid is received, part of the qualifications of a responsible bidder is that they have insurance. And
I agree with you on that, sir.
okay, and as I understand it, when an inspection was conducted at the time that work was going on, the insurance certificate had lapsed. So if they're working on city property or any property for that matter with insurance that has lapsed, there is the potential for no coverage. Now,
I don't know that that's true, Mr. Chairman.
okay, well then perhaps you ought to verify it, I guess,
I
because
can send you all the paperwork tomorrow, Mr. Chairman.
no, I'm not talking about the paperwork that you have in your hands today, James. I'm talking about the paperwork that was presented at the time the inspection was done.
I was not, the first I've ever heard of the city electrical inspector was when we came through there. I did, consult with somebody that does know electrical code, and it's my understanding that under the code, you don't have to pull a permit to work on the compressor, if there's an electronic component to that compressor, it's not like you're running wire in the building. So my understanding of the electrical code from talking to a couple of people who are familiar with it is that in that particular case, you wouldn't need it.
Well, my
And I
information,
will call the
yeah,
inspector
my
and
information
request
is
every
something-
permit that's ever been pulled to do work on the compressors, going back as far as we can. Because I want answers too, Mr. Chairman.
Now, do you think that it is okay for the workers who were working on that piece of equipment at that time not be licensed in the state of Rhode Island?
All of their people were licensed in the state of Rhode Island. They have a binder with all their licenses and their credentials. I can send it to you.
You have it now, but that day, that work was going on and that inspection was conducted. Was the workers in that building that were inspected, were they licensed in the state of Rhode Island?
Is my understanding that they were. I can send you a binder with all their licenses. The
Yep.
person,
I understand you can send it to me. You can send me what you have now. My question is, at the time the work was going on, the workers that were there, were they licensed in the state of Rhode Island? Yes or no?
I can't answer that because I haven't seen a report from this. Now, there's this report that you've seen. It was never sent to me. I requested it. I asked the electrical inspector for it. When he showed up there, I have not received anything from him.
And
So
the
if he
procedure-
found something, I'm not going to call the guy a liar.
Yeah, okay,
But it's my understanding that the place is a union shop. All the people are licensed. I have all their licenses in my possession. I'm willing to share those licenses with you. I can send you an email. They're in the office. I'll scan over to you tomorrow. But I was not there at the moment that the electrical inspector walked through, nor when did I try to follow up with him from an organizational learning standpoint, was he forthcoming with that information.
so it doesn't appear as though you know for certain that the workers that were on site that particular day, whether or not they were licensed to work in the state of Rhode Island.
The people from this company are licensed engineers. They have a binder with all their licenses. If the electrical inspector said different when he walked through, when I asked him, it would be nice if he would share that with me. He just said, I'll get the report from the state. That was his answer to me. So you're asking me to answer a question
Yeah,
where he says he found something. He didn't provide me with that information, Mr. Lazar.
okay.
So I mean, I'm not going to just make up an answer for you when
Okay.
he very well may have found something different from what
I'm not
was,
asking,
but I was not
I'm
given
not
that info.
I'm not asking you to make up an answer. I'm just looking for an answer. And so then you wouldn't know if Department of Labor and Training was called, if in fact the workers that were in that building at that time were not licensed in the state of Rhode Island. You don't know if the DLT was called.
I don't know if he called the DLT or not.
Okay,
Like he was not. I went over because I'm a team player, Mr. Lass. When I'm always trying to improve my processes, and when I went over and asked him a couple questions, I did not get. I really didn't get a lot of information out of him.
Mhm.
So I will again request further documentation tomorrow, but I have not received anything to answer that.
Mhm.
I hear it's hearsay. I know more from this conversation with you than I do from the city electrical inspector, which is a little bit sad, to be honest.
Mhm. So you weren't there when that building was inspected?
I was not aware that there was inspection going on. I have never met the electrical inspector before that day.
Oh, I see.
I think he was there to inspect something else because there was a replacement of a transformer that had been sitting in a puddle for a couple of years, and it was replaced with a better product that wasn't sitting in a puddle, that's more modern, that uses less energy. He was there to inspect that, and I don't know quite how we end up in the compressor room, or if
Right.
there's ever been an electrical inspector in the compressor room for me or any of the previous managers of the facility. I was not specifically in the facility. I do have other things under my purview outside of the arena. There's a lot of maintenance that goes on at different places. I always pop through, but I can't be at, City Park and the arena and Patuxent Park and 10 other places at the same time. I do my best.
Yep.
I work 6 days a week. I try my best, so I can't be everywhere at once. And I think you understand that as well.
Yeah, I understand that, certainly do. But as I said, I have some concerns with this company and how it has performed. And the fact that there's stands out there that day there were workers working there that my information has it was not, those workers weren't. Do you have the name of those 2 workers or 3 workers, whatever it was, that were in the building?
I don't have it with me right this minute, sir. And I'd love to see a copy of the report that you obviously have,
Okay.
because when I asked for it, I wasn't given it.
Okay, so James, then I guess my point here is, we have all these questions and you are looking to extend this increase by $40,000 for this North Star refrigeration. I have reservations about doing that until these issues here are either clarified as accurate and have been taken care of, or in fact, there was no lapse in insurance that day. The workers that were there were in fact licensed in the state of Rhode Island. I have a problem with moving on this. I don't know what my colleagues on the committee feel. Councilman McAllister.
Thank you. Yeah, this is all new information to us. This wasn't in our binder. I didn't know anything about this inspection. Obviously, I haven't seen the report. It looks like the director hasn't seen the report as well. My question, that I think it comes down to, what would a delay of this bid do to the repairs, to the rink? Obviously, we want to make sure that the ice stays frozen, that the things keep moving. It's very, very expensive when these things break down. We want to keep up the maintenance on that. What are we looking at here? If we wanted to, take some additional time to get this information that we need about this company, if we're just going to extend, maybe we want to put this back out to bid. But I want to know, first off, what does it look like today? What would a delay look like in terms of the ice rink?
Councilman, a delay could.
Excuse me, Director. Councilman, that's a fair question. I have a different question. My concern is, what would it have cost the city, the taxpayers, had there been an electrical blowout on that item that they were working on? You could have been talking hundreds of thousands of dollars because of the fact that you had workers that were not licensed to work in Rhode Island.
Mr. Chairman, respectfully, the councilman asked a question. I'd like to hear the answer from the director.
Okay, fine, go ahead.
Thank you.
So, Councilman, it's a good question. The reason I'm asking for more money is that these compressors, I think when they originally bought, the price was north of $2 million. And a lot of the maintenance there's a great big manual that comes to it. I wish I had it with me. And in that manual, you're supposed to do certain maintenance at certain times. There's all sorts of engines and gears and valves. Certain valves are supposed to be replaced after so many years, rebuild this such engine after so many years. And a lot of that stuff wasn't done. So I inherited all these cans kicked down the road. The basically, I'm asking for more money now because we had some emergency things that would have shut down the rink. The engine, the glycol pump stopped working. The glycol pump is what circulates the refrigerant under the ice to keep the ice frozen. So that was about a $7,000 fix. Had we not done that, the hockey rink would not be open today. This was optional, but I felt important. We spent $8,000 to have a Freon detector installed. A pallet of Freon cost $9,000. The thing has had a history of leaking Freon. So right now, if we get a Freon leak right now, my phone rings. I know what's happening. So I can get the technician there to stop it before it becomes a problem. Before, under previous management, Freon would leak out of the machine. We're trying to avoid these things. I'm trying to get this to preventive maintenance so we can keep this hockey rink open, because it's an asset that our kids, I mean, we're closed this week, but our kids need this right now. And it's you know, I'm trying to stay ahead of things. The triage list was huge. We had, they did maintenance 2 years ago with the wrong type of oil return pipe on, which was hurting oil return, which was causing more oil changes. So summer before last, we had like oil changes probably 3 or 4 more times than you would. So you're using more oil. So these things I'm spending a couple of $1,000s on is going to save us money long-term, prolong the useful life of these machines, which if you have a catastrophic breakdown, it costs a lot more than doing the preventative maintenance. So yeah, if we don't extend this, we don't have a lot of room if we have an emergency where these compressors have shown to be, you know, they're good units, but from my understanding is they weren't as well maintained in past years. The company in question has done a pretty good job with it. We've had less emergency calls than before. And overall, the thing seems to be functioning better with less problems. In fact, it was Chairman Lasser that recommended this company. I put a bid in for another company. I recommended another company, and Chairman Lasser actually picked this one because their bid price came in lower, and he'd called around them, and their reputation was pretty good from some of the other places they work. And I agree with your assessment that time. You were right on that.
So what was presented to me then that I based decisions on does not necessarily mean it's the same information that's provided to me today. So you say that you have the names of the workers that will be working on these compressors. You have copies of their Rhode Island licenses, and you have copies of their certificate of insurances, and you are going to check into the building codes, either with local or state, and find out if permits are required to do that work. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. I'll send
Okay.
you all that info tomorrow.
Okay. Okay. Any questions, any other questions from members of the committee? Any comments from members of the committee? Come on, Councilman McAllister.
Yes, Director, thank you for answering the question. So what I'm looking at this here is you're doing the maintenance, the ongoing maintenance, the preventative maintenance to make sure we keep this rink active, keep it up so people can use it and enjoy it. I think Councilman Lattiser has some concerns about the technical, not the actual work itself, but the licensing, the permits, the stuff like that as well, which I think we can work out and do as well. But I think you're on the right path of trying to stay ahead of these things. Preventative maintenance makes a big difference, so we don't have all these emergency calls, all these emergency actions and stuff like that. So I think we can definitely straighten out the paperwork aspects of this. I think that's very important to do with keeping the goal of keeping the rink open, keeping the maintenance going here. So that's the path that I'm looking at right now. Is that we should extend because we want to be able to pay the vendor, make sure that things are being looked at, but we need to straighten out this paperwork stuff. And maybe this is something that we do a shorter extension, keep the maintenance up, keep the rink active, but maybe we go back out, sooner rather than later, to get some other bids. Make sure we put it specifically exactly what we're looking for. If they need permits to do that they need to know, they need to have that. They need to be Rhode Island workers or licensed to work in Rhode Island. They need to have that. If they need, the insurance, that all that is in there as well. But it seems like the work itself is getting done. It's being preventative maintenance, but we need to get some questions answered on the paperwork side of things. So I think it's kind of a two-front thing. I think the most important thing right now is making sure that we're taking care of this asset. This is a city asset that a number of residents and people across the state enjoy. These are very expensive pieces of equipment, very technical. We need this maintenance to be done and continuing, because like you said, we don't want to just keep kicking the can down the road and then all of a sudden, a fix that would have been $5,000 is now $100,000. So that's how the path that I'm thinking of right now is, yes, we need to find out about this report. We need to clear up this paperwork and stuff like that, but we got to make sure that the maintenance continues and keep the rink available to the residents of Warwick. Thank you.
Councilman McAllister, this is, we're not talking about, paperwork, just paperwork. And as far as contractors go, as you know, I'm a contractor. As you also know, I've been the chair/vice chair of the Contractors Registration and Licensing Board for 23 years. And one of the biggest problems that occur with contractors is contractors who are working without registrations, without licenses, without proper insurances. And when they make mistakes and they're working on equipment such as this, which is a $2 million piece of equipment, and there is no insurance in place, there is no proper licenses in place, try and collect from the insurance company. It's difficult enough to collect from the insurance company when everything is correct and in place. So this is not just simply a paperwork issue. And Director, we keep talking about, we got to keep this ice rink going. We got to keep it going. It's this, it's that. Is this ice rink open now?
The ice rink is closed this week per the governor's order. There's a expectation that they're probably going to open up next week. They wanted a week to close the rinks out and get ahead of the COVID issue, but I expect it to be open next week. And both sheets are frozen, both compressors are working, and we're ready. We're ready for the hockey players and figure skaters to come back in that use it in large numbers.
Good, good. Was the ice rink open last week?
Yes, it was very busy last week.
Okay, good.
We were open under COVID modifications where we worked with our stakeholders, but there's a limit on parents. Basically, one parent for 8 and under, and then older kids, no parents. So they have to wait outside.
Okay. So, going forward, and I'll be anxious to receive that information that you have tomorrow. Just to all directors, particularly involving vendors, the city has to be sure that we are acquiring the proper insurance certificates. The city of Warwick should be named as a certificate holder, should also be named as an additional named insured. And if that's the case, there is a reasonably good chance, there's a very good chance that the city will be notified if that contractor's insurance lapses or expires. There's a very good chance that if the city is named a certificate holder and an additional named insured, that you will receive that notification. James, I agree with you. It's difficult for one person to be every place. And it's difficult for one purchasing agent to oversee hundreds, if not thousands of, bids and contracts, et cetera, that come in. So the department heads may want to, take a look at what they're getting with these certificates of insurance, as opposed to just a generic insurance. All right. I look forward to getting that information tomorrow, James. Thank you. Hearing that, I need a motion.
Do we ask the rest of the council and the public
Oh,
if
I'm
they have questions?
Sorry. Any questions from members? I went through all that. I asked all you guys first. I asked the members of the public first. Members of the public had nothing to say. Members of the council had no questions. So I need a motion.
I move favorable action.
Okay, we have a motion.
Seconded.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next item, 2021-132A, purchase of various tires found on page 15. Hi, Christie.
Hi, good evening. Public Works is requesting to award this bid in the amount of $100,000 for the purchase of tires to Sullivan Tire for a one-year period, January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2021.
Any questions from members of the committee? Councilman McAllister.
Thank you. I believe, just pulling up here on my computer. Yeah, one of the things that you point out in the thing is that Sullivan Tire here is in Warwick. And these are tires that we're going to use for most departments, including the fire department, whereas there was a lower bidder, but they were the vendor in Ohio. So the tires would need to be shipped here. So when we're looking at total bid, total everything included, that technically that they may have been a lower bidder, but the fact that they're in Ohio, the fact of the time delay, trying to get them here, that adds up, would make them no longer the lowest qualified bidder. Is that correct, Christie?
Yes,
Okay. Thank you very much. And Sullivan Tire, they're Warwick, correct?
they are in Warwick.
They
Yes.
are in Warwick. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. So, Christie, Councilman McAllister brings up a good point. So, if this bid were to be awarded to Goodyear Tire out of Akron, Ohio, and we order tires, do they charge us any shipping charges?
Or any shipping charges indicated in the bid package that they submitted. However, it's a little bit weird because the pricing that Sullivan also gave us, which is pretty much dollar for dollar to Goodyear, because they get their pricing from Goodyear. So I'm not sure why Goodyear is competing with one of their local distributors, but for us, it doesn't make sense because then we still need someone to install the tires. So we can't have a delay, particularly when we have a piece of public safety equipment down or even a garbage truck. Sullivan stocks the tires that we need. Or if not, they get them, either the same day or next day. So their service has been spot on for us.
Christie, does anyone review the numbers in these bids? I mean, does anyone in your department, whether it be you or someone else, does anyone take a look at these bids and do the math and review the numbers for the pricing?
Yes.
So would it surprise you to know, or for me to say that on Sullivan Tire's bid, their tires from 1 through 9, every single one of their prices are wrong, according to my math. I mean, I could be wrong, but when I take a 60% discount off of $1,594.21, I don't come up with $625. And my concern is, will we be invoiced for what they show as a list price, or are we going to be invoiced for what that net cost is of that tire when you take the 60% discount?
We're
And
invoiced for the net price off. So whatever the tire price is,
okay,
they
take the
take.
60% off, and that's going to be invoiced.
Correct.
Okay, so on the first tire, $1,594.21. It's a 60% discount. Sullivan Tire is showing the net price at $625. When I take a 60% discount off of $15.94, I come up with $637.68. Does anyone have a calculator and just check my math? 1594.21, you can do it either less 60 or times 40. I do times 40. It brings me out to $637.68. On tire 2, $198.48, 48% off the list, $102.50. I come up with $103.20. I realize that's only a buck, but my point is every one of their prices is wrong. Go down to item number 7, $1,048.99, 60% off. They have a price of $325. My math says it's $419.60.
I'm
So-
wondering if there was a decimal point when they did the calculation that they didn't, like it
It was more
rounded
than
up.
a decimal. It had to be more than a decimal point. It had to be, there's something completely wrong with every single one. It's not a decimal point.
Regardless of right or wrong, the net price that we would pay is what, for those very specific tires, is what is in the bid. So when I get a bill from
Okay.
Sullivan Tire for that number 1, if it comes in more than $625, I kick it back to them and say, you need to fix it.
Okay, so I just started running some of these numbers actually a couple hours ago, to be very honest with you. And on Goodyear, every single one of their numbers is exactly correct. Every one of the numbers on Sullivan Tire is wrong. And I just want to be sure, I want it on the record tonight that we don't care about whether that 60% discount is right or wrong. And we don't care if the math is right or wrong. All we're paying is the net price of those tires that is shown on this bid. Is that accurate?
Yes, but like I said, because Sullivan gets their prices from Goodyear for us as a municipality, if Sullivan had put in the 60.8% off on like tire 1, it would come out to be exactly the same as what Goodyear offers. So that's what I'm thinking. Maybe their percentages didn't translate correctly when they entered them.
I couldn't tell you. I'm going by an invoice. I know when I get an invoice, we check every single invoice that comes in the door. We run the math on it and make sure that the price we're going to pay is right. Because if it's not, it comes out of my pocket. It doesn't come out of anybody else's in this company. It comes out of my pocket.
No, I understand. I'm just,
It's concerning to me that every single one of those prices is wrong. Every single one of them. So if it was a decimal point wrong on, I don't know where the 60.8 is that came up. I mean, you're changing a multiplier from a 40 to a 42. But on Goodyear's bid, Goodyear has 61.70. That's a lot more complicated to do that discount than 60. And this number of 405 is exactly right. But what's interesting is 405 is a whole lot cheaper than Sullivan Tire's price at, with the correct math, at 423. So again, that's fine. They got the math all wrong. They don't do their math correctly. My concern is that when the bill comes in, all the taxpayers are paying is what is shown on this bid, and that someone in DPW is doing an analysis and a check of every invoice that comes in and comparing it to this net price to make sure that is what we're in fact paying.
we do that with every invoice that comes, regardless of the vendor.
Okay. Just bear with me here. I just want to make a couple notes. Okay. Any other questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Do we have any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I need a motion on 2021-132A.
Move favorable action.
Seconded.
We have a motion, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Aye.
Thank you, Christie. Item 2021-132, found on page 20.
Good evening, Lori Michaelides on behalf of the Police Department. In September, the Police Department went out to bid for tires. 3 bids were received. We recommend the contract be awarded to Sullivan Tire from Jefferson Boulevard, this city, as the lowest overall bidder. Our police vehicles are rated for pursuit driving and come equipped with Goodyear tires. The Ford Motor Company recommends Goodyear replacement tires. If approved, the funding not to exceed $30,000 would come from budget code 30-211 tires.
Thank you, Major. Major, for the last 8 years that I've been on the council, we've always had discussions with your predecessors, and also you and I have had this discussion in the past about the Goodyear police rated pursuit tires. And you indicated this again this evening that the tires that you are purchasing will be in fact Goodyear police rated pursuit tires. Okay. And I'm asking that because, again, I want that on the record, because in this bid, actually both Sullivan and Goodyear, they say Goodyear brand or equivalent. My understanding, or do I understand it correctly, that the only tires that the police department will be accepting for the prices that are shown here are the Goodyear police rated pursuit tires, not an equivalent?
That's correct. The equivalent, that wording should not be in our bid specs, but that will be rectified next time.
Right. That's my point. The same thing. So, Major, the net pricing, the math on this, is that done by your department, or is DPW basically they handle all the pricing and stuff?
I believe purchasing actually compiles everything.
Okay, because the same errors in bids in the math occur on yours, not as much as the one from DPW. DPW, all 9 tires were priced incorrectly. Yours, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5 of them that I went through. And then quite honestly, I just got tired of doing the math and didn't bother with it anymore. So, you know, again, I think that there should be a discussion amongst the parties with these discrepancies in the numbers, because I don't think it's healthy to for us to approve something that says one thing, but when you do the math, it proves out to be something else. So whoever is responsible for that, be it purchasing or whomever, I think a discussion needs to be had about making sure that someone is double checking and doing the math on these numbers. Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Are there any questions from members of the public? Are there any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I need a motion.
Move for favorable action.
Seconded.
We have a motion favorable. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Major. Item 4, 2021-134 heating oil, found on page 25.
Public Works is requesting to award this bid to Roberts Energy in the amount of $15,000 for the purchase of heating oil for 1 year, January 15th, 2021 to January 14th, 2022.
Thank you, Christie. Any questions from members of the committee? We have any questions from members of the council? Are there any questions from members of the public? Do we have any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, need a motion.
Move for favorable action.
Seconded.
We have a motion, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christie. Item 2021-159, police personnel uniforms, found on page 28.
In September, the city went out to bid for police department uniforms. We received only 1 bid. As such, I am recommending this bid be awarded to Barney's Uniforms out of Cranston, Rhode Island. If approved, funding for this contract not to exceed $50,000 would come from our budget code 30-260 uniforms, and miscellaneous equipment.
Major, I know we have this discussion also as well as why, I think this is a pretty healthy bid of $50,000, a nice contract, why only one person bids on it. And I think it has something to do with the specifics of your uniform, et cetera. Could you just explain that for us again, please?
Sure. Matter of fact, last time we went out to bid, we actually had an issue with an off-brand being included in the bid specs, which that we ran into some problems with that. So we corrected that issue for this time around. But we use very specific brands, Flying Cross, Blower. Obviously, we want our shirt and pants to match. I mean, it's very important that we have everything coordinating correctly. Some vendors don't like to go with those two types of brands or manufacturers, or are unable to custom tailor, which is another thing that we allow. Barney's is right down the road. They offer both of those brands and do the custom tailoring.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Do we have any questions from members of the public? Are there any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I need a motion.
Move for favorable action.
Seconded?
We have a motion in favor. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay. Moving on. Again, the acceptance of the minutes for the meeting held on October 19th. Councilman Howe? Make a motion?
I'm sorry, where are you right now?
Yeah, we got a lot of bids going, Mr.
Good.
Chairman.
You have more
Oh,
bids.
wait a minute,
Sorry.
Did I miss some?
You did.
Oh, you know what?
Page 3.
Sorry, because I didn't get them printed out here.
That would not be my fault.
No, it would not.
Just want to clarify. Sorry, you have it, correct?
I have items 1 through 10. Yes, okay, sorry, you're right.
Right. That's right. You're on 6. Please.
Thanks for that, Councilman Howe. I appreciate that help. Item number 6, 2021 motor oil, hydraulic and transmission fluid, memory fluid, etc. Found on page 45.
Public Works is requesting to award this bid to 2 vendors by item as indicated for the purchase of automotive fluids and DEF in the amount of $41,000 for a 1-year period, December 11th, 2020 to December 10th, 2021.
And Christie, just tell us why you're requesting 2 vendors on this, please.
These vendors were the lowest qualified bidders for the items as indicated for the specific product, Safety Clean and Ocean State Oil.
Okay, and does one vendor carry all of the products?
They all carry all of the product, well, the most part, they all carry all of the products. However, when it comes to these, we pay by, well, most of them we buy by the drum. Some of them are in pounds, some of them are in buckets. The DEF is a bulk delivery. So this bid in particular is more cost effective for us to award by the vendor, by the lowest qualified bidder, than to just blanket one vendor.
Just as a point of clarification, I was making light, a little humor, a little soft touch when I said memory fluid,
I caught that.
because I forgot the other page. Okay. Any other question? No, Councilman McAllister's got it now. He's got it. Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Do we have any questions from members of the public? Are there any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, need a motion, Councilman McAllister.
I'll move favorable action on that dad joke. I can start making those now, I guess.
Yeah, if you don't get all the right slips, see what happens to your memory. Councilman Howe, you got a second?
Seconded on both items, yes.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Christie.
you.
Let's move on to item 7, 2021-165B, motor oil, hydraulic, transmission fluids, found on page 50.
The police department also went out to bid for motor oil and transmission fluid. 4 vendors submitted bids. We are recommending the bid be awarded to Total Energy LLC, doing business as Ocean State Oil out of North Kingstown.
Thank you, Major. Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Do we have any questions from members of the public? Do we have any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I need a motion.
I move favorable action.
Seconded?
We have a motion, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Major. Item number 8, 2021-165C, motor oil, hydraulic fluids, et cetera, found on page 55.
Good evening, Jason Omenauer for the fire department. We're also under this bid 2021-165. The department is recommending for item number 17 only, the 2.5 gallon containers of DEF fluid, Total Energy be awarded the bid for an amount not to exceed $1,500.
Okay, any questions from members of the committee? Do we have any questions from members of the council? Do we have any questions from members of the public? Do we have any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I need a motion.
I move favorable action.
Seconded?
We have a motion, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you, Chief. Item 9, 2021-197, additional vendors, police unit personnel uniforms, found on page 60.
This is actually a continuation of our other uniform bid. Barney's only bid on 53 items. Our specs actually include 94 items. So the additional 41 items that we don't have a bid on, we're requesting we be allowed to use various vendors for those items. Those purchases will only include required items defined by the CBA and within policy. When we purchase these items, we'll get 3 quotes from various vendors and we'll go with the lowest quote. As an example, the 53 items that Barney's bid on was our standard uniform, our honor guard uniform, and our recruit uniforms, which of course are the most popular items we buy. These 41 items are things that we do not buy on that frequent a basis. So they're the ACO uniforms, the jailer's uniform. We don't buy those items frequently. Those only come about when transfers happen. And then we purchase as needed. So if approved, we're seeking funding not to exceed $8,000 to come from budget code 30-260.
Thank you, Major. Seems pretty straightforward to me. Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Do we have any questions from members of the public? Are there any questions from members of the public? If not, I need a motion.
Move for favorable action.
We have a
Seconded.
motion, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Major.
Thank you.
Item number 10, 2021-196, found on page 62, State of Rhode Island Public Safety Communications.
This is a 5610 request to piggyback the state of Rhode Island bid for public safety communications equipment for Motorola Solutions. We're looking to award this contract to Motorola Solutions Incorporated. Purchases will be made from our communications budget, $35,270, with a spending limit not to exceed $32,000. This will replace aging radio equipment in both our fire alarm dispatch center and mobile and portable radios used by our apparatus and our personnel. The contract period will be consistent with that state MPA 395, which expires 6/30 of 21.
Major, how old is that equipment that you're looking to replace? I'm sorry, Chief, sorry. Sorry.
The radio equipment that most of the radio equipment we have now on the trucks are the portables and mobiles are from our last FEMA grant, which memory serves me right was 2012, I believe that was purchased. The equipment at our dispatch center at Fire Alarm up on Sandy Lane dates back to previously to 2010. I'd say more like 2005. Some of that radio equipment is that we need to replace.
What's the normal life expectancy on that equipment, given the amount of use that it gets?
Most of it has to do with the technology changes. It's more like a computer. Most of it's computers for the most part now, a ruggedized computer. So it's before it actually becomes not useful as far as functionality. It ages and it doesn't incorporate with our technology anymore. So our radio is piggybacked on the state system, a statewide trunked radio system. And we have to keep current with their standards and their changes so that we can continue to operate on their band.
So I guess basically it's oftentimes it's equipment that simply becomes outdated with technology as opposed to worn out, doesn't work anymore. It's just simply outdated.
Yeah, that's correct. We put in for a FEMA grant this year to replace all of that equipment. We unfortunately didn't get awarded that this year. We're hoping to put that in again next year. And just the fact that we're able to, the FEMA allows us to put in for replacement of that equipment is proof that this equipment's already antiquated to the point where they'll allow replacement as a grant.
Right. Good. Good. What was the grant that you received last time for this? How much was it? Roughly.
Now you're testing me. I would guess in the area. I'm going to take a wild guess if I did, so I can get that information to you. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. I was just curious, not any big whoop to do. Okay, thanks, Chief. Understand that. Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Do we have any questions from members of the public? Are there any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, need a motion?
Move favorable action.
Seconded.
We have a motion favorable. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So make sure that, yep, I've gone through all those pages on that one this time. All right, now we'll move on. A motion on those minutes again, please.
Move favorable action.
We have a motion. I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, aye. We have 2 yeas, 1 abstain. Thank you, Councilman. PCR 100-20, a resolution relative to abatements.
Point of clarification, I believe that's 101-20.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. The PCR for the whole package was 120. Your item PCR 101-20. Thank you, Neil.
No worries. So this month we have abatements in the amount of $7,593.03. Every abatement this month is actually due to a new exemption application. So I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Seems pretty clear to me. Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Do we have any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I need a motion.
Move for favorable action.
We have a
Seconded.
motion. We have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it, thank you. Item number 3, PCO 29-19, an ordinance relative to tangible property tax regarding vacant storefronts. Councilman Sinapi for first passage.
You hear me?
We can.
All right, so this is a legislation that came in large part thanks to Councilman Ricks's Tax Relief Commission. The only reason why we didn't want to wait for the final report is because this is too great an opportunity to kind of sit on, especially in a time of COVID, and there's no real reason to. The administration helped a great deal, Neil especially, Neil mainly. He carried the load for us big time on this one. This is basically just giving us the ability from the General Assembly to work on this on the city side. So passing this doesn't actually bind us in any way as far as the details of how we'll go about doing this. But the long and the short of it is that everyone knows we have a large amount of commercial property that is unutilized in Warwick, far too much. I mean, you just have to drive by the airport and you can see it. But I have some in my ward. I know so everybody has some in their ward. One property here or there where the owner, for whatever reason, decides to sit on it for years at times at the detriment to the neighborhood around them and to the city as a whole. So this seeks to address that basically by incentivizing development or for the developer to sell it off, and helping in a way that doesn't actually hurt the city, because it'll be a kind of incentive that doesn't come out of our pockets. In fact, instead of getting $0 in tangible tax, which is what you get on unused property, we'll get some dollars. You just won't get the 100%. And as far as where we pick in that number in between will be based on the legislation we would do afterwards. After the General Assembly passes this, we'd have to decide by ordinance the fine details for how we want to work this. So this is pretty much just the introduction. And Neil could probably put a much finer point on this, but that's the long and the short of it.
Yeah, well, one more quick comment, just to clarify. We base the real estate value in part on commercial properties on the occupancy level. So increasing the amount of tenants that are in these buildings and the lease amounts that they're paying will actually bring in more real estate revenue that we're otherwise not going to receive. So it's a win-win.
I just need some clarification on this. Perhaps it is okay, but this is a PCO, and in the title, it says resolution relative to seeking legislation. Should this Bill Ward, should this be listed as a resolution or an ordinance?
Oh, actually, Councilman Lattiser, you're right. This was supposed to get fixed on the floor, and Bill might know exactly how we were supposed to do it. I'm not sure if it was relayed to him.
I was going to raise the same question, Mr. Chairman and members of the council and the committee. This is a resolution requesting authorization. It's an intergovernmental aspect. It's not something that would be codified in the code. So at the appropriate time, we could take a motion just to redesignate it as a resolution, assign it a PCR rather than the PCO that it currently has, and then it is a one passage item as it's just a resolution requesting something.
Yes, thank you, Councilman Lattiser. I completely slipped my mind. Good catch.
Sure. So I'm not quite clear what the intent is. It says a resolution relative to seeking legislative approval to exempt certain tangible personal property taxes within the city of Warwick. I've read through this, and I still am not clear on it. I'm not a lawyer, but I am not getting clear on this. Why do we need to go to the General Assembly for anything with this when there is really nothing specific for them to look at? I mean, what are they going to look at? I mean, what is it that you're looking to exempt? What percentages, what dollars, et cetera, et cetera? Why do we need to go to the General Assembly with this as opposed to, perhaps forming a study commission to put together the ABCs of what it is? And I'm not disputing the need to do it, by the way. I'm not clear as to what are we going to send to the General Assembly? What is there for them to approve? I don't see anything here of substance that says we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to exempt this, we want this percentage, we want that percentage. I'm not clear on that.
Neil, do you want to do that?
Yeah, so Mr. Chairman, if you look at line 35 through line 42,
Okay.
it's essentially saying that any building that had a vacant unit for 2 years or more would be qualified. If a new tenant was to come in and sign a lease, they wouldn't have to pay the tangible tax for that 2-year period.
Okay. So it's essentially a tax exemption for 2 years.
Correct.
Neil, how many buildings would you estimate? And I'm sure you have some sort of number to even put some validity to the exercise of doing this. How many properties would you guess that there are in the city of Warwick that could qualify for this?
It's going to be different in different areas. We've got a problem with
a guesstimate.
Well, percentage wise, if we look at like big box retail, that's no longer in favor with the market, and we've got a lot of them sitting out there. I don't have an actual percentage, but it's probably close to 15% of that style.
You
And
got a
then if we look
monster
at-
right near Port Plaza, right?
Correct. And then if we look at smaller strip plazas, especially in villages like Connecticut, we've got a lot of vacant buildings, not just vacant units.
Mhm.
And so again, this would be something that we could use to help bring some people back into the community, but also it would generate some revenue on the real estate end, because those vacant buildings don't pay as much in taxes as the occupied buildings do. So this is as much to help from an economic development standpoint as it is to try to help those landlords get a tenant.
Sure.
But it
Yeah,
does require General Assembly approval.
Mhm.
We can't just create an exemption. We have to go to the General Assembly and get that approval to do that.
Right, okay. I can see and understand the rationale for this. But, I would like to see what the cost or the monetary impact that this would have if this were to go forward in its current form. And I'm wondering, is there a fiscal note that accompanies this?
There is not, but because we wrote it only on units that are vacant for 2 years or more, we are getting zero revenue now. There's no revenue to lose.
Mhm.
It's only a positive impact. So we won't know the effectiveness of the program. And this was actually initially an idea that came up pre-COVID. We didn't even know that COVID was going to hit, but now especially with what we're dealing with, we have to get out in front of these issues and try to make Warwick one of the more attractive places to come as the market redefines itself, as we come out of the COVID mess. I just want to make sure we're positioned to be able to do that.
Okay, that's a very good point. And that kind of brings me full circle to when I first got on the city council. We tried to do something similar and couldn't get any traction at all from the General Assembly, because the cities and towns, the leagues of cities and towns, they were complaining that, it's going to cost us millions of dollars if you do that. There's no way, we can't afford it, et cetera, et cetera. And we simply couldn't make them, when I say we, it's in another life, not particularly the city council couldn't. They couldn't understand that you got a vacant building. It's a vacant property. You're not getting any revenue from it whatsoever. So to give this type of inducement to occupy it, it's not costing you anything, because as you pointed out, Neil, there is no revenue. And I'm clear on it now. The building that has been vacant for 2 years or more, and the property for the first 2 years of occupancy. So, okay, I get it. I can see where you don't need to have a fiscal note because you're not getting any revenue on that property anyways. Okay. Any questions from, yes, Councilman McAllister?
Thank you very much. I just want to commend Councilman Sinapi, and he said he worked with Councilman Ricks on this for taking the lead. As Neil mentioned, they've been working on this since before COVID, so they were moving this forward. So we will be ahead of the curve here. So I want to commend them on their forward thinking on this. This is an issue that we hear about. We, as Councilman Sinapi mentioned, we all have these buildings in our ward. We see them sit for years, and just to kind of give an incentive, let's change it up. Let's get some life into these buildings. I think it's outstanding. This is the first step. Getting into the General Assembly. I just commend both of you for taking the lead on this and really timely issue that I think is very important. So I look forward to supporting it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman McAllister. I concur. I'm just going to ask the question, being that the point has been made that Councilman Ricks has been working on this as well. Councilman Ricks, are you a co-sponsor on this, or?
I'd actually like to request to be formally added as a co-sponsor, but I do fully support this resolution. It's an issue that we talked about in relation to the Tax Relief Commission. So it really one of the many ideas that came up. And while I personally would like more of a carrot and stick approach of punishing folks who are letting these various buildings sit empty and become blighted eyesores, I understand that there are some limitations to what the city can do here, certainly from a legal approach, as well as we don't want to be in a position where if someone legitimately falls on hard times, we don't want to be adding to burdens. But let's face it, there are a lot of actors out there, banks and whatnot, who sit on a lot of this vacant property because really they're taking advantage of the tax code and depreciation, or for whatever other reason. So if we can solve the problem by giving a little incentive that really effectively costs us nothing and generates more revenue, well, that's a win-win right there. So I want to also make clear for any members of the public listening on this that in general, I am not a big fan of the so-called tax treaties or the like, where property taxes for the real estate are marked down for a number of years. In general, Warwick does not participate in those, only with very rare exceptions. For instance, I know that one such property or some such properties that there were those types of deals were really where it was remediating brownfields and environmental disasters and the like. And so this has nothing to do with anything like that, because all along, Warwick is continuing to be able to have that property tax on the real estate, just like the residents pay for their houses, just like occupied businesses pay the commercial rate. So this does not affect that commercial real estate rate. What this is affecting the tangible property tax that a business pays in addition to on the real estate. They have to pay that property tax on the equipment that they have there. And so, as our tax assessor had explained, when you have a business, when you have the building sitting there empty, then obviously there's no equipment being taxed there. So when we get a business into that vacant building, we're not just improving that building by having it occupied, we're also improving that whole area because we're reducing the blight. And then hopefully that business stays. Certainly it's going to be sustainable because they're able to pay that commercial real estate tax, unlike where some cities and towns can get themselves in a little bit of trouble with being overly aggressive with those tax treaties on commercial real estate. So really, this little incentive here when it comes to that tangible property, that equipment inside that building that the business uses, I think that it's the perfect carrot to lure some additional businesses to fill up these vacant buildings. And so for those reasons, I hope that it will earn the support of this committee and the council.
If I may, just to address the concern about the non-utilization. If you look at line 44 and up to the second page, line 2, there is a provision where the city will make every effort to try to work with this as the carrot. But the stick does come in there that would require a local ordinance. That's an enabling piece of legislation that's already on the books at the state level. But if we choose to do that, we all know the buildings, I don't want to point any specific ones out, but there's some that people have just clearly walked away from. And that's not what we're looking for. So I think through economic development, through ordinances and resolutions such as this, we want to try to work with the property owners and help them fill up those vacant units. But if they truly are just neglecting or abandoning the property, we do want to have that carrot too, to be able to say, look, we're going to charge you more if you don't use the property or if you don't try to sell it. That's a last resort, but we need to have that as an option as well.
Thank you. Councilwoman Chavez.
Yes, I'd like to ask the sponsor if I could be a co-sponsor also.
All are welcome.
All right, thank you. And then we're going to give that a PCR number?
You're gonna change that to a PCR?
It
Bill,
looks like a nod from Bill.
Yes, if someone on the committee would just want to make that motion, it would be PCR 10320.
I can make that motion to change it to PCR 10320
do we have a second?
in favorable action.
Councilman?
Second by Councilman Howe. Council President?
Yes, I too am in favor of legislation like this. I was going to make a suggestion and ask a question. Many years ago, Neil, we had a situation where can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, because my screen froze for a sec, so I apologize. Neil, we had a situation several years back where, tangible tax also has to do with vehicles, correct?
Well, we have a motor vehicle excise tax. That would be separate.
Okay.
Personal property
All
business.
right, I just, I don't know if we need to clarify because I am concerned about what had happened to us a few years back where people were renting properties in and around the airport, basically the Avises and Hertz of the world, and trying to say that the vehicles were not located in Warwick, Rhode Island. They were registered in New Jersey or whatever, and they were avoiding it. So that came to mind that, I didn't want to see any exemptions like that. And I haven't really had time to think about it any longer, but if you can think of similar situations, that might be, and I'm just throwing things out where items are big ticket items, if you will, that are personal property. So it would be appealing to me if I owned a copy company to store all my, $20,000, $30,000 copiers in one of these properties and not pay tangible tax on it for 2 years. And, use it as a storage facility. That'd be a significant savings. And just refresh my recollection, how long does the property have to be in the city before there's a tangible tax? And, I would assume it applies to inventory that's sitting around waiting to be sold.
Well, a couple of different things. So tangible personal property is assessed as of each December 31st.
Right.
So they don't have to have been here. If they opened up on December 30th, they're taxable for the ensuing tax year. But as far as the bigger ticket items, the inventory is no longer taxed. So the only thing that's taxed for tangible property at this point is things like the desk, the gear, the computer, physical assets. Outside of things like utility companies, those are different. But the inventory, both at the wholesale and the retail level, has been exempted at the state level. And I think that phased out in the last bill would have been in 2007, I believe.
Okay. So we don't have to worry about any big ticket items that might be sitting on a property similar to a vehicle that's for rent or equipment that needs to be rented. I mean, there are also rental copy machines or whatever. I'm just trying to think outside the box to make sure that we're not rewarding bad behavior, if you will.
No, I certainly could help with the motor vehicle issue because tax situs was definitely here in Warwick. Okay. So regardless of where they register those vehicles, if they're garaged here on a permanent basis, they have to take the average that they keep on hand in Warwick, and it is taxable here. We are dealing with some of the companies with that, but most of them are compliant with that.
And that includes the leased vehicles.
That includes the leased vehicles, correct.
And what about leased copy machines?
Well, for the copy machines, if they're leased, they're already paying the tangible personal property tax. But two things that we did with this resolution, we made it so that they can't be moving from one building in Warwick to another, right? So if we're getting the tax already, they can't get exempted.
Okay.
Also, we put an anti-cannibalization clause in there, so we can't pull somebody from another city or town. that's a requirement. In order to get it through the General Assembly, they're going to want to see that. So this would be truly a new business that didn't exist, that we're attracting into Warwick. We will see a lot of companies take advantage of COVID. People will go out and buy some machinery or equipment at fire sale prices because the other company went out of business. But for every loser, there's typically a winner. And so as those companies come back and try to reinvent themselves, that's really what we're looking for here.
And the other question I had for you, Neil, was in line 44. It mentions corporate property owners. And is this, I'm assuming that we don't want to limit it just to a corporation because there could be a partnership or a sole proprietorship or an LLP that may fit those qualifications, or no?
Absolutely, but I think we're looking at corporate here for more global sense, and this is just speaking of that we're going to make every effort to try to work with the corporate owners, more of an association if you think of it at that level.
Should we say business property owners?
I would say commercial property.
Commercial property owners, yeah. I just don't want it to, there's some mom and pops out there that own space that got hurt too, and I understand what Councilman Sinapi is doing, and just trying to make sure they know they're welcome too.
Yeah, I think commercial would probably be a better catch-all.
Okay. All right, those are all my questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, Councilman Sinapi, Councilman Ricks, I also agree that I think this is a good piece of legislation, and Lord knows we certainly need to get some of these buildings filled up, the existing buildings, and I would also like to request to be added on as a sponsor.
Me too, Mr. President. Mr. Chairman, and Neil, while we got you on the line, if it's okay through the chair. How are we looking on our collection rate right now?
Good question, but I don't see the collection side of things. I only do the assessment. The communications that I have had, though, we're still in good shape. As you all know, we haven't built the motor vehicles yet for the 2020 tax year. And one of the reasons we've been able to do that is because the collections are doing fairly well. But the exact numbers, I don't see those. I don't get any of those reports. So,
Mr. Chair, have you heard what the collection rate is?
I've heard 94% is what I heard last week, but I haven't addressed or asked the question directly to the tax assessor, tax collector. That was just something that was put out to me, but I'm hearing somewhere around 94 and 95%.
Yeah, and my concern is I think we had set it at 99. I know I had asked questions about that in June. I think you had May or June. I think you had too. And if it is at 94%, knock on wood that it doesn't stay there, but that could be about $12 million. So I just wanted to point that out to the council members so we can all be aware of it. Thank you.
Neil, you just mentioned something, and I think it was Friday, and one other time during the course of last week, I had two constituents call me, and they were pretty happy to tell me that there would not be a car tax bill sent to them this year. And my understanding, I think you just touched on it, is because the rate has not been sent down to us yet from the state. That is in fact the reason why the car tax bills haven't been sent out. I'm only bringing this up because if I received a couple of calls, two calls actually, saying that, this is really good. We're not getting a car tax bill this year, so that's going to help. I don't know if that's only those two people or if there's some reasoning or somehow why people are under the assumption that there is not going to be a car tax bill. But I think it's important for somehow to get that that information out to the taxpayers that there is a bill coming, We just don't know how much it is yet because the state hasn't said it. Do you agree?
Chairman, well, I think this actually sounds very important and good to know. I'm not sure we can discuss it based on the agenda. I don't know one way or another. I don't know if any of the attorneys want to weigh in.
Well, if it does, Bill, is there any reason why, that question can't be answered?
There were a few items noted there. Can you frame which item you are trying to relate to the ordinance that's before us?
So I can answer that. We are discussing the impact. I asked about tangible property, whether it included vehicles, and Councilman Lattisaw followed up with a point to clarify whether the bills have actually gone out on the vehicles. So I think it's within the realm of the legislation. Thank you.
Yep, just looking for a ruling one way or another from our attorneys, that's all.
Bill?
I think from a legal perspective, it's open to that. I think it's more under a point of order issue that the president has weighed in his opinion on. I think that as it relates to the item before us, the tangible property taxes are an item that's there's a nexus to it, but it to the best of our abilities, if we could stay closer to the vacant storefront provisions or other tangible taxes, that would kind of be the closest meet point to what has been posted.
All right, yeah, and to be clear, I'm not raising a point of order. I was just concerned from OMA, and with that said, I'm still not raising a point of order. So say whatever you wish. Sorry.
Okay.
And Councilman, sorry, can I interrupt?
Yes, go ahead, Lynn. Identify yourself for the record, please.
Sorry, I'm Lynn Prodger, the acting finance director.
Okay.
I'm more than happy to talk to you about the motor vehicle bills offline. I wasn't aware that you've been contacted a few times.
Yeah, and Lynn,
So maybe we're not sending the bills out until legislation is passed.
I understand.
It is a bookkeeping nightmare, and you're right. We probably should message that a little better.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to talk about that offline.
It's a question that was just brought up, and with all the activity going on over the weekend, yesterday, today, quite frankly, until Neil just mentioned it, it was not in the front of my mind. It was in the back of my mind, tucked away. So yeah, I'd be happy to have that conversation with you, Lynn, because again, maybe it's only these two people in my ward. Maybe I'm the only one in the whole city that has gotten those questions. Maybe I'm not, but I think that it would be a good idea. We'll have that conversation offline and see if we can't come up with, some communication or some method of communication. Thank you. Okay, so
just a couple
here
of
we are. We have, does anyone else wish to be added on as sponsors to this legislation? Councilman McAllister, Councilman Howe. Okay. Is there anyone else? Councilwoman Travis, you already added on? Councilwoman Travis? Council President is added on. Councilman Sinapi, I guess you have the entire council on. So we have
Councilman Lattisaw, I think Neil was starting to raise his hand, and then.
Yeah, I just wanted to
Neil, go ahead.
If I may. So there is a blurb on the website about the motor vehicle excise tax explaining that until the state passes their budget, we actually are prohibited from the statute from sending out the bill. So that is out there, but people do have to migrate to the website and look for it.
Yeah.
It is on the main page, but
Neil, don't misunderstand. I'm not being critical of anything that you're doing or Lynn's doing or the administration is doing or anything like that. I'm not being critical of it. I'm not criticizing it. It just, you struck, the memory bank, and I'm just suggesting that, there could be people, a lot of people don't go to the city website.
right. But that's why I figured I'd mention it in this forum.
Yeah.
So that maybe they will.
And
Yeah.
I would think that
being critical.
I would note we've probably traveled up beyond or to the edge of where we could go on this item as it relates to that. So let's back to
PCO 2919. Councilman Sinapi, what is your pleasure? Continue, sir. Any other questions? Any other questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Are there any questions from members of the public? Do we have any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I need a motion.
I'll make a motion for favorable action. Do we need to change it, or do we already change it to
You can include that in your motion, Councilman.
okay. I'll
That
change it to a
Just
PCR.
note it that it's now PCR 10320 as part of your
Okay.
motion.
PCR 10320. And also, do we want to, Council President brought up a point on line 44. I'll ask the sponsors, are you change corporate property to commercial property? Are you in agreement with that?
I have no problem with that. I think it's actually a good idea.
Okay, then I will make that motion as well. In line 44, we will change the word corporate and to commercial property. And I move favorable action on those two amendments.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion on PCR 10320 to amend line 44 from corporate to commercial. We have a second. All in favor on the amendment?
Aye.
Aye. Would someone like to move it as amended?
I'm favorable as amended.
Seconded.
Councilman Allison moves as amended. Councilman Howe seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, item number 4, PCR 195, a resolution relative to creating a study commission for insurance, health insurance benefits. Councilman Sinapi.
You can hold that till, hold on, let me just check my schedule here. The first meeting of December, please.
Okay, we will hold to December 7th. At the
Motion to
request
hold
of-
to December 7th.
Okay,
Seconded.
we have a motion to hold at the request of the sponsor. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
PCR 41A 820, resolution addressing fiscal request for education fiscal year 2020 through 21. Councilman Sinapi.
Same request, please.
Need a motion to hold till December 7th at the request of the sponsor?
Motion to hold to December 7th.
Seconded.
We have a motion to hold. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Next item, item number 6, PCR 9720, a resolution regarding ratification of the Cooper Building lease. Councilman Sinapi.
I'll hold till the immediate next meeting, November 16th.
We have requested the sponsor to hold until November 16th.
A motion to hold to November 16th.
Seconded.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr.
Motion
Chair,
passes.
Councilman Lasser,
Sure.
I just wanted to point out to Councilman Sinapi, which he probably already knows, the lease wasn't attached.
That's correct. Yes, there was not.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, just hold on. I might have had, bear with me 1 minute. On line 32, Councilman Sinapi, it says, and any and all other documents. I don't know what any and all other documents mean, so if you could take a look at that and make sure that any and all other necessary documents are included, because right now there are none. Thank you.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it is 6:34 and the Finance Committee is adjourned. Thank you all.
Billy, you want to just give me a thumbs up when you're ready for us to start ordinance? Give you a second. Thumbs up. All right. I will call the ordinance committee at 6:34. First off is the acceptance of the October 19th committee. I was not in attendance, so I will need someone to move that and second it.
Motion.
I will second it. if that
Councilman
was the motion.
Sinapi moves it forward. And thank you. And seconded by Councilman Corley. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
2 ayes and 1 abstention. Thank you. First off is PCO 10-19. This is not drafted. A number of co-sponsors. Councilman Lattiser, what's your pleasure?
Let's hold till, you know what, let's hold to December 21st.
I'll make that motion. Hold on behalf of the sponsor to December 21st.
Thank you.
Second.
Been moved in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Number 2 is PCO 15-19, an ordinance regarding health insurance for city employees. Councilman Lattiser, Council President Marola, first passage as amended. Councilman Lattiser.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you recall, at the last meeting, Councilman Sinapi had requested a fiscal note, and to my knowledge, we have not received that fiscal note. I don't see it in my binder. So having said that, I am going to move to hold until November 16th.
Excuse me, Councilman.
Yes.
Just want to let you know, today's the cutoff for anything to get into your binder. It's going out on Friday. I don't know if I'll have it. I'm just letting you know that. Binder goes out to you on Friday.
That's okay. You know, this request was made by Councilman Sinapi. I believe it was like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
just telling you that I don't have anything right now, and I just wanted you aware of that the binder does go out Friday.
Well, hopefully they'll be able to get that fiscal note to you by Friday. In the meantime, I'm looking to hold until November 16th. Thank you for that, though.
On behalf of the sponsor, I'd move that we hold it till November 16th.
Second.
Thank you.
I think we may have lost Councilman McAllister. He was
His connection
freezing.
was getting a little wonky, and I guess it
Yeah.
dropped.
Councilman McAllister, you still here?
He's logging around now, he says,
Oh.
attempting to.
Sorry about that. I got disconnected. I think I'm back on.
You
Yep.
are.
Okay. What'd I miss?
I think Councilman Corley moved to hold, and I seconded it.
Okay, and when are we holding it to?
November 16th, Chairman.
Okay, so there's a motion to hold to November 16th. It's been seconded by Councilman Corley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And third is PCO 2-20, an ordinance relative to forming a commission to establish LED signage guidelines. Councilman Lattiser, not drafted.
Thank you, Chairman. This is an issue that affects and certainly can affect all of our wards. And I'm going to request that we hold this until whatever the date is, till the second meeting in January, so that our new members of the city council will be able to weigh in on this, because in both Ward 1 and Ward 9, they have a pretty good potential for having issues with this. So I think that they should have an opportunity to weigh in on this. So I'd like, whatever that date is in the second meeting in January, Mr. Chairman, that's the best I can tell you.
I haven't set a calendar for next year.
I know you haven't, but we will have a second meeting in January. So whatever that date is when I'm looking to hold it.
It's tentatively scheduled, should the proposed calendar move forward, to be January 20th, but I would recommend making the motion to be the second meeting in January.
Thank you. That's what I said.
I will make the motion on behalf of the sponsor to hold to the second meeting, whenever that may be, in January 2021.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. And that closes the ordinance committee at 6:40.
Is there a public safety meeting?
Should be.
Public safety is up next.
Bill, question for you procedurally.
Yes, Councilman.
I want to move to reconsider one of the claims from last meeting. Should I instead first just be docketing it today and then we'll do any vote on a move to reconsider next time, or a move to reconsider today to get it on the docket?
So we would need to take two steps. If you're looking to reconsider an item that has not been posted on under the Open Meetings Act, we would put it on record for the next meeting.
Right.
We wouldn't be amending tonight's docket or anything like that.
Exactly. So just don't do anything and just add it at the end of the docket, or make the motion now, add it at the docket, and then wait till next meeting.
Whatever you on the committee's pleasure is. If the committee, the item that you have in mind, was it something that was completed through the full council?
I believe it was Mark Huel, right, Lynn?
That's correct.
Hang on 1 second. Let me just. So to be clear, you're discussing PCR 6820, a resolution relative to the claims of Mark Hool, which was passed unfavorable by the council at the last meeting. Is that correct?
Correct.
So I would say that the item was last in the hands of the full council. So I would say that you can make the motion at the full council for bringing the item back forward.
All right. Thank you. So for now, we'll stick to the immediate agenda. We have acceptance of minutes from committee meeting held on October 19th, 2020.
Motion favorable action.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next, we have PCR 102-20 for claims. I think we have one. Yep. Eric Perlman, 41 Columbia Avenue. Department recommended favorable action. He's got an invoice from the House of Glass. This is damage created by a rock in a way that you see in movies, and it's terrifying. The affidavit appears to be filled out correctly. Oh, we only have the one, not really an estimate because it's an invoice rather than the usual three. And
If I may.
I was just going to add the claimant did give an explanation in the book. But yeah, go ahead, Councilman Griggs.
Thank you. I believe that we only require the three when it comes to certainly the potholes. I'm not sure if, as a practice of the city council, we've traditionally required three when it comes to property damage, not to vehicles. I'd defer to someone who's been on the council longer than I when it comes to whether our practice applies to this kind of property damage.
I remember doing one for a fence, I think in Councilman Lattiser's ward. I might be mistaken, but I think then we needed three. But I same thing that you said, someone who's been on longer would know better than I, frankly. Any of the veterans want to weigh in one way or another? Sounds like crickets all around. Any other comments or questions from members of the committee for the moment?
I would also add that the recommendation memo states $307.12, but it seems like all of the documentation, including all of the documents submitted by the claimant, as well as the copy of the invoice, all state $304.95. Not much of a difference, but want to make sure to point that out before we take any vote.
Very good point. So first, I guess we'll make sure if we plan on favorable action. So any other comments or questions from members of the
Yes,
committee?
Mr. Chairman, I can tell you from a professional standpoint, dealing with broken windows, that number of $304.95 to repair that is a fair number.
Gotcha. Good to know. Any other questions or comments from members of the council? Any questions or comments from members of the public? Any questions or comments from members of the public? I mean, my own 2 cents, the claimant did give an explanation on this, and it makes sense to me, a large custom window. So how is he going to go about getting 2 additional quotes? I mean, we're pretty stringent when it comes to tires because heck, you can Google it and add one in. I get that. I mean, I'm not a window guy, I fully admit it, but I don't know how one would get a quote for a large custom window.
Mr. Chairman, if you would like some additional, we get calls for broken windows all the time. And if it's not one of our products, we're not going to go out and give anybody a quote. You're simply going to go out there and it's either going to be repaired or it's not going to be repaired. You're not going to get people running around to quote on repairing a thermal pane piece of glass. It's a custom made item. It's very difficult to get done in some cases, and it's just a pain in the butt. So they're not going to get 3 companies running out there to give them prices for it.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. That'd be my guess as well. And now we actually have someone who knows what they're talking about rather than me just speculating. Anyone have any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, we should first, we got to make sure we do this for the right amount, though. Let's see. So is anyone a motion to make on the committee?
Move favorable action in the amount of $304.95.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I believe unless, oh, no, I'm wrong. Don't listen to me. Next is PCR 69-20, resolution on the boy.
Mr. Chairman, I know you moved minutes. Did you move the minutes on the?
Not on the consent calendar, they did not.
Right, so there's
Sorry.
3 sets of minutes for the consent calendar of July 13th, August 17th, and September 21.
Oh, good call. I had
Thank you.
skipped right to the claim. So first we'll do minutes, July 13th, 2020 meeting.
July 13th, 2020. Say the date again, please. I apologize.
You nailed it. You got it right.
Okay. Move favorable action.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. August 17th, 2020 minutes.
Move favorable action.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then September 21st, 2020.
Move favorable action.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Walsh, for catching that. PCR 69-20 is next, resolution relative to claims, specifically Sean Lavoy. This is the one we had held. I believe due to lack of estimates, if I'm not mistaken. He only gave one. Is the claimant on the line by chance?
His name again, please?
Yeah, it doesn't look like it, unless he's the Samsung SMT377V. Lynn, I assume this individual got notice.
They did. I have not heard from anyone.
So last time we had the situation, we did eventually recommend unfavorable action, given that the individual didn't reach out despite multiple notices. Does anyone on the committee have any comments or questions?
I would agree with, I think that under your new guidelines, Chairman, that it gives everyone the opportunity to come in, voice their concern, to fill out the claim. It would be the same thing in any other liable court, where if they put in a claim and they expect or they want payment for damages, they have to come in and state their case. While it's our job to give the money if it's needed, but it's also our job to defend and justify giving the money. So there's much more needed. I know the clerk has sent out numerous requests. We've held this for numerous times. I'm fine with moving on.
Any other members of the committee have any comments or questions? Any members of the council?
Yes. I see he has submitted a letter that says that unfortunately, due to my car being a specialty car, I'm forced to get my tires at the Honda dealership. I've tried several other tire establishments, and not only do they not carry the tire my car takes, the backside of the tire rim is flat, and they do not have the tool required to remove them. And I see from the report, it looks like it's a Honda Civic. I don't know if anything about the accuracy of what the claimant has said, but it was something that he at least did file with his claim.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, the big concern I have is because it's an issue just with tires. Usually it is readily obtainable for the other numbers, but I'm right there with you. I'm not a tire guy. I'm not a tire expert. I don't know if because they're specialty tires, that's out the window. I mean, Honda Civics are not uncommon cars by any means. But
I do
the tires, I don't
think
know.
there's more than one Honda dealer that is available. So I'm
Good point.
not totally letting him off the hook, but he did make an attempt to address it. And I don't know what else he's done since then. I just saw that, so I thought I would bring it to your attention.
No, that's fair. I mean, I think what we've been doing is when we had this situation, by giving them the additional notice that we intended to potentially vote no and that it needed to come in, that was exactly the kind of thing we hoped they would come in and tell us that, hey, here's why, and you have to give an explanation. And at times, hopefully we'll be able to fix it, because it would turn out maybe they could get estimates and they just didn't think it through. But without that person contacting us in any size, shape, or form, it's hard to know.
And quite honestly, I kind of wish I agree with what you're saying, Mr. Chairman, because in the world of Amazon, Google, Etsy, eBay, and everything and all things social media, we don't have to get into that. I think there's plenty of opportunity to present and to have, state this case or find the item that we're looking for. But again, giving them the opportunity to show, I'm ready to move on this.
Mr. Chairman, may I say something here?
Absolutely.
Is this the third time that this comes before us?
It's at least the second. I can't promise you whether or not it's the third.
I mean, I agree with all of you. We have to come up with some sort of guideline. This is a sizable piece of money for anyone. It's $800 we're talking about is what, they're looking for anyways. It's a sizable piece of money. As the lawyers in the room know, it's not our job to provide the defense or the reasoning or the rationale. It's the claimant's responsibility to appear before us and present their case. They've had at least 2 opportunities to do so, maybe 3. I don't know what your intent is with this particular item, but I think it might be worthwhile to establish a guideline with these claims that if on one or two holds or extensions, the party does not come forth or does not call with a reason, that you just dismiss it. That's my 2 cents.
I mean, it's a fair point. The way we had previously, we had just got done doing the guidelines, was that if the committee indicated it intended to vote no, that we'd hold it, we'd send notice and we wait. But because of COVID, we've been overly generous in that regard. But given that COVID's not going anywhere anytime soon, I think you're right. I think we do have to figure something out like that, because we can't pretend as if it's going to be gone tomorrow and it's going to resolve this for us, because it's not. So that's a very good point.
And then, nobody can point a finger at, any selective enforcement or someone got, better treatment than another. This is the guideline. You had 3 attempts because it ties us up. And we've talked about meetings, getting extended, et cetera, et cetera. Well, you know what? There's more than one reason for them. And, this is another.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I don't disagree with any of that.
Thank you. That's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Any other members of the council wish to speak? Any members of the public wish to speak? Any members of the public wish to speak? Seeing none, we can entertain a motion.
Move unfavorable action.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That got a triple.
We have PCR 95-20, resolution in regards to erecting stop signs on the secondary roadways of Grimshaw Place, Hackman Place, Worth Street, Crystal Drive, and Lockwood Street. Councilman Lattiser.
That's still a work in progress, Mr. Chairman. Let's hold that until November. No, actually, let's hold it till December 7th.
Move to hold till December 7th.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Then we have PCR 96-20, resolution in regards to erecting a stop sign at the northwest portion of Horseneck Road and Pinehurst Avenue. Councilwoman Travis.
Yes, I would like to move that favorable action. I do have a traffic study with that.
All right, after having walked those roads recently, I agree. I would like a stop sign there, so it's not hit by a car. Any other members of the committee have any questions or comments? Any members of the council have any questions or comments? Any members of the public have any questions or comments? Any members of the public have any questions or comments? Seeing none, we can entertain a motion.
Move favorable action.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'll move favorable action.
Get it.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
And Lynn, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that concludes public safety.
You are all set.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Intergovernmental is up next.
Okay, I will open the intergovernmental meeting at 6:58. The first thing on the agenda is the acceptance of the October 5th meeting.
Move favorable action. Mr. Chairman, is it October 19th or October 5th?
Well,
That's the 19th.
Move favorable action for the acceptance of minutes on October 19th, 2020 meeting.
I have some for October 5. I'm looking for October.
Councilman
19th.
McElroy, is Councilman McElroy here?
He was.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm here.
I
Hello?
made a move for the October 19th meeting, Councilman.
Yes,
Seconded, please.
yes. Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So I have the agenda in front of me. It might be the wrong one, but it says the acceptance of minutes, but for October 5th. So I'm confused about that. But if everyone else is on board that it was October 19th and there are no other minutes, that's fine. The
Your first item is PCR 2820, Councilman.
Yes, I'm just trying to locate it in the book. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I can, if you have it, I can read it off.
Okay, you can read it off. I'll find it by the time you're done reading it. I hope.
Thank you, Chairman. Item number 1, PCR 28-20, resolution supporting codification of cancel presumption by the General Assembly, sponsored by Councilman Sinapi. This is not drafted.
Yes, I see that. Okay, Councilman Sinapi, what would you like to do?
Hold till the second meeting in December, please.
Request of the sponsor hold until the second meeting of December.
I'll second that.
21st.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the next item is PCR 39-20, a resolution in regards to amending PCR 1-19, the city council rules, Rule 30 docketing. The sponsor is Councilman Lattiser. It's not drafted.
Hold till the second meeting in January.
Request of the sponsor move PCR 79-20 to the second meeting in January.
39-20.
39-20.
Correction. I withdraw the last motion. Pete, make a motion to hold PCR 39-20 to the second meeting of January.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The next item is PCR 79-20, a resolution for engineering to create Buckeye Brook project. Councilman Howe?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with what Councilman Lattiser said earlier. I would like to have the new council members included in this. So I would like to hold this until either, and I would refer to our clerk, is there more weight in the first meeting or would it be better in the second meeting, or did we fill that up pretty thick?
I only have what was held tonight to January. I don't have
Okay,
anything at all.
Thank you. Then I request, Mr. Chairman, that we hold PCR 79-20 till the second meeting of January.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
And I believe that is all the items on the agenda. Am I correct?
That's correct.
7:03, Mr. Chairman.
7:03, we'll close it.
Thank you.
So the final committee we have for the evening is Public Properties, Land Use Committee, and Community Affairs. Is Chairman Ricks. Councilman Corley and Councilman McElroy.
Thank you. Is everyone ready?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Let's see. Okay, got the mute off now. Okay, the time is 7:05. The City Council Committee on Public Properties, Land Use, and Community Affairs comes to order. Let's see, first up, we have acceptance of the minutes from the committee meeting held on October 19th, 2020. Do we have a motion?
I move it. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All affirmative. Let's see. One item on the agenda. This is Councilman Snappy, and it is not yet drafted. It is PCO 30-19, ordinance involving state law regarding unutilized commercial property. To which meeting would you prefer this be held?
I'd probably say the first meeting in December for the moment.
All right, first meeting in December. I believe that's December 7th.
Yeah.
All right, do we have a motion to hold to December 7th?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that concludes the committee meeting at 7:06.
Why don't we take about a 5 or 10 minute break since we've been going for 2 hours here, and then we'll reconvene.
A short time ago, they told CNN that they are hopeful that they could maybe give us some more updates. We're still waiting on that information, and as we wait, there's a lot of focus on Clark County. So that's where I
I'm ready when everybody else is ready.
Ward 3 is ready, Mr. President.
Ward 5 is ready.
Seems to me everyone should be ready once the president's ready. What, that's my idea.
Ward 7's ready.
Councilman Ricks, Councilman Sinapi, Councilwoman Travis, Councilman McElroy. Councilman Ricks, are you there? Councilwoman Travis, Councilman McElroy.
There's one.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Well, he's looking for Councilman Ricks and Councilman McElroy.
All right. One more. One more.
Is Councilman McElroy still logged in? I can't even. I don't see that he's even logged in. Can somebody
where is
try calling him?
Yeah, I think you're right. I'll call him. He got kicked off. He's coming back on.
I do. Oh, shit.
Councilman Corley, you're not muted.
Okay.
All right, Councilman McElroy's here. Chris, are you on with us? From MIS?
Yes, sir, I am here.
Okay, so why don't we go ahead and start the meeting? And tell us when we're live.
We are live.
Thank you. Welcome to the Warwick City Council And before we start, I just need to read something into the record. This is a virtual Zoom meeting. You may access or participate in the meeting using the Zoom application on a smart device or on a PC via the web at zoom.us and clicking on Join a Meeting in the upper right of the page. The webinar ID is 978-8786-9794. Anyone wanting to participate via telephone may only call one of the following numbers. Non-toll-free numbers. While most mobile phone carriers do not place an extra charge on customers for toll calls, it is up to you to check your carrier concerning potential charges you would be responsible for. The non-toll-free numbers are all starting with a 1 in the following 9 digits: 646-558-8656, 301-715-8592, 312-626-6799, 669-900-9128,
Did we lose you, Council President?
Oh, good. I was
247-888-788-0099, 833-548-0276, and 833-548-0282. If you experience any trouble connecting via a toll-free number, please try the next number on the list. You will then be asked to punch in the webinar ID, which I just gave, but it's 978-8786-9794 on your touch-tone pad. While everyone joining the meeting will be muted, if at the appropriate time during the proceedings you wish to ask a question, you may, if using a smartphone or a PC, click on the raise hand icon. The meeting moderator will then ask for the participant having raised their hand to be unmuted. After the question, answer, and any further discussion, the participant will be muted again and will need to click on the raise hand icon or punch *9 to ask another question. In phoning in, punch *9 on the touch-tone keypad. The moderator will indicate when it is your turn to comment/ask a question. With that being said, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Marola,
Here.
Mr. Corley,
Here.
Mr. Howe.
Here.
Mr. Howe,
Here.
Mr. Lattiser,
Here.
Mr. McAllister,
Here.
Mr. McElroy,
yeah.
Mr. Ricks,
Here.
Mr. Snappy,
Here.
Ms. Travis.
Here.
9 present.
Thank you. Why don't we have Councilman Corley, why don't you lead us in the salute to the flag? Councilman Corley, you have to unmute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
And to the
to
republic,
the republic for which it stands,
one
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice
for all.
for all.
Please play the national anthem. Me okay? We're all back.
Stand by, council. We're experiencing a little difficulty here. Just a moment.
Okay.
That happened last month too.
Okay, thank you. The first item on the agenda is executive communications. There are none. Under general communications, I first wanted to wish a happy birthday to Councilman Ricks, who I don't see here. Happy birthday, Councilman.
Happy birthday, Councilman.
Thank you.
And it's nice of you to spend your birthday with us.
2 years in a row.
And I know that was your first choice. I know. And I'd like to congratulate everybody, that won, obviously, yesterday. I know we all put in a lot of a lot of effort, and even to the people that didn't win, to thank them too, because without people being involved in democracy, it doesn't make Warwick a better place to live. And everybody should be proud, whether they won or not, of the effort that they put in, and know that all the citizens of Warwick appreciate all our efforts and those of opponents for everyone also. I also was very pleased that the bond referendum passed for the schools. And unfortunately, I was disappointed that we never had the opportunity to get money on for the high schools. I'll leave that to the next council, which includes a lot of you folks. I think that they desperately need that. And, I know we were working hard on it, and COVID-19 hit, and we weren't able to get that item on the agenda. I also wanted to state that we wish new Mayor Picozzi well, and also Mayor Solomon well with his future endeavors. We all know that was a hard-fought race. And I've also extended my hand to Mr. Picozzi, and I know all of you will do the same also, to help his transition in any way that we can, in the best interest of all the residents that we represent. I've also offered him, if he needs it, the use of my office, the president's office at Buttonwoods, anytime that he feels that he needs to use it. With that, I wish him well and all you folks well. I think most of you are coming back next year, and I know it's going to be a difficult year with COVID, and I wish you all the best on behalf of everyone in the city. Are there any other general communications that members would like to make? Councilman Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. A few things that happened in Ward 3 and throughout the city. First, I'd like to identify the Sand Pond Spooky Path. That was a couple Fridays ago. It was community organized by the people of Sand Pond. Basically, it was a family get-together, and it was $5 per family. Very cheap, and all the neighbors got together in the pond around Sand Pond, or the path around Sand Pond. All the neighbors got together. They lit it up. They put the decorations. I was fortunate enough to help. They allowed me to help out with parking, and as we went. And I got to tell you, Mr. President and fellow council members, it was wonderful to see a community get together and do this on their own, but especially to see the amount of participation. Where the kids were excited in their full costume gear. Parents had full costume gear, and they were skipping in the streets. They were laughing. They were joking. It was just such a great event. It was one of those things that lasted a couple hours, and you just didn't want it to end. So I have to commend the entire Sand Pond, as I call them, the Sand Pond Posse, for getting that done and putting on such a great community event. It was absolutely what we needed in this of lockdown. Everyone was wearing masks, and you wouldn't even know. The kids were running around, and they were skipping so hard their masks were falling off. That leads into another great event, the Warwick Police and Fire. I have to identify Councilman Sinapi and Councilman McAllister for going there and being a part of it, and Representative Bennett. At the trunk or treat for the police and fire. Some of us may have heard about the traffic jam that was in Apponaug, but this was the first time they did it. And I was very forgiving. I parked my car way over towards in Ward 7, and I wasn't towed, which was very nice. And I walked all the way down towards Apponaug, a pleasant walk on a beautiful evening. And it was phenomenal. The turnout was amazing. We did see some comments, and the police received a little bit of comments about the traffic, but you know what? We're doing everything out of the air during this COVID, and I commend Chief Rathbun and the Warwick Police Department. I commend Chief McMichael and the entire fire department, Warwick Fire Department, for stepping up, getting these donations, the candies, giving of their time, giving of their equipment. The lights were flashing. It was so exciting to see the kids driving up and throwing, taking the candy. It was just such a great thing. Well over 2.5 hours of nothing but cars coming through and pulling through and being involved. Again, families and parents and grandparents taking part and trying to get their kids and give them kids some normality in a time where I think we all can admit that maybe the trick-or-treating season wasn't as much as we're used to it to be, or we would want it to be, but it was so encouraging and great to see. And I want to thank Mayor Solomon for giving those two departments the ability to go ahead and do something like that and the freedom to get it done. I can't say enough for how they handled it. And finally, Mr. President, I'm sorry, I'm going long-winded, but Election Day police mobilization. A lot of people identified and commented about how they saw a lot of police out in force, and there were police at the polling places, and the police, I've heard of no issues, and that's because Colonel Rathbun and the Warwick Police Department were ready, they were prepared, they were mobilized, and the professionalism that I witnessed and that all the voters witnessed just reintroduced and just sent to the rest of the community that that this was what democracy is about. They have a safe vote. They're going to be protected while they do their constitutional right, and I commend them because Warwick did step up and protect everyone's constitutional right to vote. So it was very encouraging. And as I said, the entire time I wanted to stay positive, and this has been just one extremely positive and good couple weeks. So thank you for the time, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Councilman Ricks.
I would certainly agree with everything that Councilman Howe just said, everything that you said earlier, Council President. I would also add, I also observed the police coming on by the polling stations. Excellent job, highly professional. Everyone, I think, felt safe going in to vote. And with that, wanted to extend a thank you and congratulations to the Board of Canvassers, all of the election volunteers, and everyone who came out to vote. I don't know what our previous record was for turnout, but if this last year, yesterday, this last month of the emergency voting, the early voting, it's truly been unprecedented with the mail-in ballots and the early voting, still in Rhode Island referred to as emergency voting. But that's all unprecedented. And if we didn't set a new record, then I'm sure that we were very close to it. And for it to go as smoothly as it did, that is just amazing. And I would also like to congratulate our city council president. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that you were originally elected in 1998. And I think that all of us sitting here know how fast just 2 years goes by with the city council. So being up for re-election every 2 years, coming back, keep doing more, getting the job done for all those years and all of those accomplishments. Wanted to congratulate you and thank you for your service.
Thank you, Councilman. They do go fast. I think, well, Councilwoman Travis can attest to that, but I believe we've served with close to 40. I mean, Councilwoman Travis has served with more than I have, but I think it's up close to 40 council people that we've served with over the 20 odd years that we've been on the council. Is there anybody else that would like to speak before we go on to the next item? Okay, if not, we're to the quarterly reports, and the first item on the agenda is the Water Department, and it's Terry DiPetrillo.
Thank you, Council President. Terry DiPetrillo, the Chief of Water Division. Just finished up the 2020 lead and copper testing for the Warwick main system and the Potawatomi system. All samples were below all MCLs. We are in compliance with 90 percentile level. Last year we had one sample that was over the limit. We replaced that service and we are in full compliance with the EPA. We just finished up the 2019 Consumer Confidence Report that was mailed out to all residents. That can be found in the Water Department, Cooper Building, Public Library, and also City Hall. We just finished up the 2020 asbestos testing, which is required by the EPA every 5 years. Again, we came in well below the EPA's confidence limits. And coming on to winter, we started our aggressive status of fire hydrants. Make sure they're working properly, that they're draining. There's no problems. For the first time, the Water Division, I just completed a system-wide unidirectional flushing program. The flushing program starts at the source, which is Bald Hill tanks, and we move the water systematically through a section of the distribution system. What it does, it's caused the pipes by moving water at a velocity, and it scours the pipe, and it gets rid of natural debris and sediment. That also keeps down our THMs and our halosuric acids, make us compliant with the Department of Health. And lastly, Pure Technologies. As you know, we had that 30-inch line rupture back in 2018. Pure Technologies had just completed their assessment regarding the inspection. They did a complete inspection of the pipe from Pettit-Concert Meter House all the way to Lincoln Ave. Going on to Route 37, 95, back on the 37 again to Lincoln Avenue. Right now, we just talked to them. We're trying to come up with the best way, the most affordable way to rehabilitate that line. Right now, they're leaning towards inserting slip lining a 24-inch PVC line inside the 30-inch cast iron. So technically, that 30-inch cast iron would be a hose pipe. And then we grow out the annular space between that 24 and the 30-inch. And we'll be able to get 100 years out of that. So Stantec, our engineering firm, is putting together a bid now for that.
Thank you, Terry. Terry, on item number two, it mentions the 2019 Consumer Confidence Report. And I know that there were some pollutants that were found in violation of the levels that we're supposed to have. And was that a byproduct of the chlorination process, or could you give us some insight there?
Yeah, Councilman, hold on, I'm just looking at the report right behind me.
Okay.
Yeah, so what you have, Mr. President, is you have your inorganic contaminants, okay? You have your microbiological contaminants and inorganic contaminants. And if you actually look to the right, it explains how those contaminants get in the water. And sometimes it's soil erosion. It could be salt from the winter. It could be a number of things. And sometimes it's just naturally present in the environment. But the downside of treating water is you do get some byproducts, which I just mentioned, THMs, halocytic acids. And that's heavily regulated by the DOH. We do quarterly tests for those there. But the only violation we had last year, like I said, was we had one lead action level at one consumer at Conachit Avenue. But we immediately replaced that line, and we are in full compliance this year. All levels are way down.
So that's what I was going to ask about. That wasn't from the Providence water supply. The source was the one of our own pipes.
Well, they're lit service coming into their home, correct?
So was it our pipe that had lead or their pipe?
Both sides. So what we do is coordinate with the homeowner. They replace theirs, we replace ours at the same time. We currently have, I believe we're down to 142 lead services in the city, which is not many to go.
And you have a process of slowly replacing those?
That's correct. Every year when we do the lead and copper report, we take the highest levels, which they're all very low right now, but that's how we determine what we replace.
And how long will it take to replace those 142 pipes?
It all depends. You know, we try to do, a couple a month, weather depending. So you have more manpower, more equipment, we could actually put a program together and knock it right out.
Okay, so it's about 3 or 4 years, you think? Or?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else have any questions? Yes, Councilman Lattisaw.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hi, Terry.
Councilman, how are you?
Good, thank you. Excuse me, thanks for taking care of that water main break the other day too.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That has just been a problem over there. Terry, can you tell us, as of current time, what you have in delinquent water bills in dollars and cents?
I could not tell you. I would have to contact the collector's office to tell you that, Councilman. They handle that part of it. But I know since COVID started, we haven't, there's been a moratorium on shutoffs. So it could be great, but I can't get you that information.
Yes, if you could get me the information. So what I'm looking for is what you have for total arrearages on water bills, excuse me, and also an aging of those delinquencies.
Okay.
And while I'm speaking to that, what reminded me to ask you is when I looked at the CC and Mike St. Pierre is on there. I know there's some members of the city council may not be familiar with Mike, and I've always been a proponent of throwing the kudos out when they're deserved.
Absolutely.
Mike was a key part of the tax sale committee that I formed years ago and designing a plan for collection on water sewer bills. This city never had, and this was a long time ago. This is pre-Solomon administration. This goes back to probably 13, 14, something like that. The city never even had a past due notice, never had a shut off notice,
Right.
never had you owe us money notice, never had anything. And the number back then, I'm curious to see what the number is today, because the number back then was a $6 million price tag. It was somewhere in that vicinity of $5 to $6 million. And we threw a lot of stuff on the table in a 2-month period.
Yes.
And Mike never once ever said, we can't do that, it's too difficult, we can't do those forms. He designed and made everything work. He made the forms work. We color coded them for the 2 different responses that were necessary. And the last I heard, that number had been reduced down to somewhere around $1 million or just under $1 million.
That's correct.
So I'm curious to see where it is today, but
Okay.
There were a lot of people on that committee did a great job, but Mike just happens to be in the front page today. And I just want all my colleagues to know, you ever need forms designed,
Right.
or you need help, get a hold of Mike. He did a great job.
Well, Councilman, if I can excuse you for a minute, he was supposed to go on before today. It's 7:45. He's still here working.
There you go. There you go. Thank you.
I will get that to you, though.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions from council members? Yes, Councilwoman Travis.
Yes, hi, Terry. Do you have a count on how many hydrants we do have?
Yes, we are at 2,175, Councilwoman.
175. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And you're already checking on all of them before the winter, so they see how they're operable, right?
They'll be done by November 15th.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Council President, I believe you're muted.
Sorry, thank you. Any other questions from council members? If not, thank you for your report, Terry, and we'll move on to the next item,
Thank you.
which is Phil, MIS. Oh, I'm sorry. Is that right? Is Eric? I think I skipped over Eric.
I believe
Eric.
Eric's next.
Yeah, Eric, I apologize.
I'm here. Hello, Council President and Council members. Eric Hindinger, Department of Public Works, presenting the quarterly report for the stormwater. Currently, the DPW has prepared an RFP for firms to assist the city with getting in compliance with the state mandated stormwater regulations. I believe that is up in the purchasing department right now and soon to go out to bid for us. The second item is the Buckeye Brook project. As I'm not sure if you all know, but we went out to bid for that. Unfortunately, the bids were quite higher than we thought and more than we have available to us with the money that the community development has. So we're looking at other options to try and bring the costs down. It's difficult because this project is kind of unique. There's only certain places we can put the spoils from the project away. So we're trying to locate an area where we could do that possibly for free or at a lower cost so that we can get it within our budget. Number 3 is something that's been hanging around. It's a public outreach that we're looking to get. We initially had an RFP that was separate to things previously. We could either look at putting that together again and going out for to bid for that, or incorporate that into item number 1 as well. Another item that was services to protect screening for our stormwater is number 4. We did a bunch of outfalls to do that. Crossman Engineering prepared that for us and did some screenings for us. I believe there were approximately 13 outfalls that require some additional testing to do. And then we also have to do some more additional testing for our other outfalls as well. So we'll have to try and get that going as well. Our roadways were swept this year. As usual, we haven't gotten to a second round of sweeping yet. We're going to see if we have staff available to do that in the fall. And then the final item is trainings that I attended. Most of them were webinars along the way. Several different, some are more valuable than others. But that's basically it for this quarter on that. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Eric, in number one, it mentions that that you want to go out to an RFP for the state to complete the state mandated stormwater regulation and requirements.
Correct.
Has the city hired outside engineers to do that before?
We have not actually done that. We did go out to bid a few years back, probably in 2010, to get an engineering firms on board to help us out with different types of things. Planning reviews at that point, we didn't, there was no engineer involved, but so we actually haven't had anybody doing our stormwater work for us. But this would be basically something to get us going, get us back in line with what's required by the state.
And how much work remains for us to get in compliance?
There's quite a few items that still have to be addressed with our consent decree. The annual stormwater reports have to be completed, as well as some other items that are on that list. I would say we probably have completed about 60% of the items.
And how much do you think is needed in financing to hire someone, an engineering firm, to complete it?
That's again, that's kind of a difficult question. We'll have to see what actually comes in at for the bids. We could do a project by project basis on that to determine what it is. I know that we are only I believe that we have $100,000 budgeted. So whatever we would do within the year would have to be within that budget. So once we get the firms on board, we could probably go through and pick out some projects, ask for quotes on those projects for the firms that have been already approved, and then go from there and see how many we can get done within the year.
And can you refresh my recollection of what we're out of compliance with and why the state wants us to get this stormwater requirements finished?
Basically, it's the issues with the phase 2 stormwater program that we haven't been keeping up to date with. One of the items would be like testing all the outfalls and whatnot, and so we have to kind of get back into compliance with that and up to date with all those.
Okay. And when you say testing, is that a source of pollution for the bay and the tributaries? And
potentially, yes. Obviously, if there is some, if the tests come back with contaminants, then we'd have to chase that down and do our investigations to try and find the cause of the root of the contaminations.
I remember in the 90s, they traced the contaminants all the way back up to Centerville Road to the farm up near West Warwick, because it had cows on the property, and the fecal matter was leaking into the stream and causing algae blooms and pollution all the way down into Mary's Creek, I believe it was, which is right in Apponaug. And so I know that's important to the water quality for our residents, because in particular in the summer, we have beach closures and things. And I think that that's an important issue that needs to be addressed as soon as we can to prevent clam kills and fish kills and beach closures. And, obviously I would be in support of getting an engineering firm in there as soon as possible. When was DEM the annual report completed for what year?
I believe last year was 2018.
So last year we were working on the 2018 report, or I'm not too sure.
Correct. Yeah, we're just behind as far as getting those reports done, Councilman.
Yeah, so what I guess I should have phrased it a little bit better. How far behind are we in getting these reports done?
2 years, I believe.
Okay. And with regard to Buckeye Brook, I guess we had a permit, that's number 2,
Correct.
on the alteration for freshwater wetlands. The project was put out to bid in the spring of 2020, but the available funds that you needed, you didn't have enough money. Is that basically what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. And how much money do you need, and what did the bids come back at?
Well, the bids were, the lowest bid was I believe it was $1.4 million. We have about $1 million available for that. Now, as far as that consultant at the time was not necessarily the most qualified to do the project. So the next bidder, I believe, was 1.7 million. And they would have actually been the choice of us because they've done projects of this type more often than the lowest bidder. But obviously none of the bidders were under the budget, so we couldn't continue with the project.
And refresh my recollection on that. What would this alteration do for Buckeye Brook? Why do we need this?
Well, basically over time, there has been a phragmite growth within the brook, and the root mass of the brook is actually obstructing flow coming out of Warwick Pond, thereby increasing the level of the pond. Basically, it's dammed Buckeye Brook. And so what we'd like to do is get in there, spray the phragmite, kill phragmite, actually remove the root mass and kind of restore the actual channel of the brook so that the water levels will return to their actual normal levels.
And what was your potential source of funding? What was it going to be? I know you didn't have enough money, but was
Right,
it
that was
a line item or?
No, that was from a grant through a disaster recovery funding with the community development of flooding.
And how much money were they going to give us?
Well, we've got that money. So we're hoping to spend it, find a project to spend it on. It's approximately $1 million.
Okay. And how soon do we have to use that money? Use it or lose it?
Well, it's right. There's no actual date to use it or lose it, but they could come in at any time to take that. I would imagine. There hasn't been any date set.
Eric, can you hear me?
I can. Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Yeah, I lost you for a sec, so
Okay.
Zoom is not perfect. I just wondering how much time we have before we lose that $1 million grant.
I'm sorry. I'm not sure. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, there is no drop dead date on that, Councilman.
Okay. And is the money in our hands, or do we have to provide something before we receive it?
The money is available. It's in community development.
Okay. And does community development have any way of raising the additional, 700,000?
Not at this time. We can pursue avenues to try and do that, I suppose, through all the grants and whatnot when they become available.
Okay. I know that's been a significant issue for a lot of people that come on and speak. I know it is for Councilman Howe. He's
Right.
been working on that. And, anything that I can do or anybody else can do to support you to get that money, to get that project rolling would be great.
Council President, I want to thank you for asking those questions and bringing light to this topic. And Eric, thank you for answering them so directly. Thank you.
No problem.
And is there a possibility, Eric, of going back to the Rhode Island Airport Corporation since, a lot of the change in streams, et cetera, have been linked to, non-point source discharge from the airport over the years. Well, actually point source discharge because it was coming out of these pipes. And in particular, with regard to the fields, there's been some issues raised when they put in the fields that this is causing sediment to build up and go down. Is this something that the council should be looking to pass a resolution to maybe send to our Rhode Island delegation, our senators and reps in Congress to see if we can't get some remediation funding from the federal government? And can we help you in any way that way?
Anything you could do for us would help. That would obviously, if we got more people involved, the project is on the airport property. So they're fully aware of the project and we have their permission to work on it.
Right.
But, if they could have, we have had some discussions informally with them regarding potentially maintenance of the project, because we obviously, if we do spend all the money on this, we don't want it to just revert back to the way it is.
Right.
Seeing that it is on their property, we would hope that they would maintain it. Again, there have been no guarantees. It's kind of been informal discussions, but anything the council could do for us to try and get some additional funding so that, unfortunately at this point, we probably would have to go up to bid again to do the whole, to get the prices. But we definitely could do that. Hopefully we'd get lower prices. We do the bidding in the middle of the pandemic, so it may have had some effect on it. There could be a potential that the prices could be a little bit lower rebidding it, but I can't tell that until we bid it.
Yeah, and I know it's frustrating for all council members, and we've talked about it in the past, Eric, but
Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head 2 minutes ago when you said this is on their property.
Yeah.
And I think that the council, maybe we could all co-sponsor it, Councilman, how you could put it together. I'd be happy to co-sponsor it. Is to, the Rhode Island Airport Corporation needs to fix its own problems on its own property. And if we have $1 million grant to assist them, I would think that they should be able to come up with $400,000 to fix this problem, because it's a significant problem for the residents that wasn't created by the residents. Just keep us updated on this, Eric, and anything that we can do to help you, please let us know. Thank you. Is there any, Councilman Howe? Go ahead.
Just very quickly, again, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to my colleagues for listening, and Eric for following up with all those questions and comments. But I do want to say, Mr. President, I just respectfully remind the council, not RIAC, but we did put forward requesting that the state assist us with finances on this, because we are picking up the tab. Again, Mayor Solomon and the community development, they agreed to pick up the tab because, as you said, it's a Warwick issue. It's not Warwick property. It's a Warwick issue that is not Warwick property, but affecting Warwick residents, especially in that pond area where they're losing their property to the rising waters. It's not caused by global warming. It's caused by Phragmites. So I have to say, we did put forward requesting the state, and part of that was also somehow getting the funding source, whether it be from RIAC and the state. But I will definitely, absolutely look into something like that. Unfortunately, as Eric explained before, our window closed. That's why I have the Buckeye Brook scheduling process, so that we can make sure we get this done within the next year, within that next block. So again, Mr. President, I thank you, and I thank all my colleagues for showing interest in this, because it does affect us as a city. But I also want to commend this council and the executive office, because we're picking up the tab and we're picking up the responsibility of something that, like the council president said, shouldn't be our responsibility, and we certainly didn't create it. Thank you.
Thank you. And maybe it's a good time to take a shot with Senator Reed's office too, to bring this to his attention. And as you know, there's new Congresses and new state legislators every year, and it might fall into another category that wasn't available to those bodies before. And usually in January, we renew our efforts, and whatever I can do to help, that'd be great. Councilman Lattisaw, did you had a question? No. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for Eric on engineering? If not, we'll go to MIS and Phil.
Thank you. Good night.
Good evening, Phil Carlucci, MIS Director. It's been a while since I've had a chance to present the department's progress to you, so I'd like to spend just a minute highlighting a few items. In the report you have, it points it out that, as is in the case with every department, business, and person, our focus has been limited and dictated by the COVID pandemic. Back in March, I believe, when the stay-at-home order first occurred, the department was able to mobilize the appropriate hardware and software for approximately 100 remote workers within the city in a 7-day period. And this was during a time when every business in the city, state, and country were all vying for the same equipment to do the same job. And I credit both the staff as well as a few of our key business partners for really pulling together to make that happen. There was also a quick adoption of virtual meetings, which we're in the middle of, and prior to the pandemic, the city rarely, if ever, used them. Once again, people's willingness to learn the technology and adapt the way that they were doing things was key to the transition's success. And since there's a work life outside of the pandemic, we were able to successfully keep our cybersecurity training program moving forward with the help of the Rhode Island State Police. We did move forward with the adoption of another Munis module that we already own at no cost. So we're working on getting some training for that, but it was the inventory module. So we're going to start to take advantage of more of what we're paying for. And we did kick off a couple of projects. We have a timesheet entry process improvement project that we're in the midst of. And we did upgrade the tax collectors department receipt printers. And while that sounds like a more minor project, it actually, the old printers, for a lot of technical reasons, were what was preventing the tax collectors from using the current version of Munis. They had an old desktop version that they had to use because it was in compliance with the printers that they were using. So upgrading those printers was actually an upgrade to the entire department to get more functionality. That's about it. I'd be happy to answer any questions or expand upon any of those projects.
Thanks, Phil. I did want to thank you for all your help putting together the Zoom meetings when the COVID hit. And, you know, occasionally we have a glitch here or there, but it's been a great asset to the city that we can continue to move forward and have meetings, even though we haven't been able to meet in person. And, you know, we're lucky that we live in a day and age where you can actually do something like this. Not too long ago, we wouldn't have been able to do something
You're
like
right.
this.
You're absolutely right.
Is there any questions for MIS? Any questions for MIS? Nobody wants their computer shut off? Okay. All right. Very good. Thanks. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. And Earl Bond from Warwick Sewer Authority.
I don't see Earl in the panelists right now.
Okay. So why don't we agree to continue that to the next meeting then? If Joanne could send out notice to Earl to ask him to be at the next meeting, that would be great.
Just so you're aware, Council President, Earl's away due to a personal matter.
Okay. Is there someone that was supposed to fill in for him? Or did you get notice of anybody that would fill in for him, or notice that? I didn't receive notice about him not being available.
What I just conveyed is the extent of my knowledge. I apologize.
Okay. No, that's fine. I'm glad you told us, and hope everything's okay with him. Okay, so we'll move on to acceptance of the minutes from the council meeting held on October 19th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
Move favorable action.
I have a second. Councilman Ladislaw, Councilman Howard moves, seconded by Councilman Ladislaw. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed?
I'm going to abstain.
And Councilman McAllister will abstain. And so that passes. And we're on to the announcement of appointment. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I get a little bit of an echo if we could shut off mics. We're now on to announcement of appointments. There are none. Appointments requiring confirmation. There are none. We're on to the consent calendar. We're on PCR 120, a resolution relative to bids, committee report, finance.
Action.
For action, Councilman Ladislaw.
Move favorable action on PCR 100-20.
Seconded by Councilman McAllister. Councilman Howe. Go ahead, Councilman.
Item number 1, 2020-094, HVAC maintenance, favorable action. 2021-132A, purchase various tires, favorable action. 2021-132B, purchase various tires, favorable action. 2021-134, heating oil, favorable action. 2021-159, police uniforms, favorable action. 2021-165A, motor oil, favorable action. 2021-165B, motor oil, chassis lube, favorable action. 2021-165C, motor oil, transmission fluids, etc., favorable action. 2021-197, additional vendors for police department personnel uniforms, favorable action. 2021-196, state of Rhode Island public safety communication equipment, favorable action. And that completes the consent calendar.
Is there any questions that folks didn't ask during the finance committee that they would like to ask now on the finance docket? If not, the other item on the consent calendar, number 2, is PCR 10120, a resolution relative to abatements, committee report, finance.
Committee recommends favorable action.
For action, Councilman Ladislaw.
Favorable action on PCR 101-20, resolution relative to abatements.
And seconded by Councilman Howe and Councilman McAllister. Go ahead, Councilman Ladislaw.
There was minimal discussion. There were abatements of 7,000 change, Mr. President, and most of them were due to evaluations. There was no questions, and the committee recommended favorable action.
Okay, I believe the amount of abatements was $7,593.03.
Yes.
Were there any council members that had any questions that didn't get a chance to ask it in the finance committee? If not, I don't see any hands. We'll move on to the third item on the consent calendar, which is PCR 10220, a resolution relative to claims, committee report, public safety.
Committee recommends favorable action for one claim. I can give the
Okay.
details.
So for action, Councilman Sinapi, you gonna move it?
Yep, committee moves favorable action for the claim of Eric Perlman in the amount of $304.95.
Seconded by Councilman Ricks and Councilman Howe. And a favorable action in the amount of $304.95. Is there any questions on that claim that were not asked in the Public Safety Committee? If not, the consent calendar has been moved and seconded. A yes is to approve the consent calendar, and the clerk will call the roll.
Marola,
Yes.
Mr. Corley, Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser, Mr. McAllister,
Yes.
Mr. McElroy,
Yes.
Mr. Ricks,
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi,
Yes.
Ms. Travis.
Yes.
9 yes.
Consent calendar stands passed. We'll move on to unfinished business. First item on the agenda is PCO 1019, an ordinance regarding regards to water discharge, Councilman Lattiser, Councilwoman Travis, Councilman McElroy, Councilman McAllister, and Councilman Sinapi. This is first passage. It's not drafted. Committee report, ordinance.
Hold to December 21st.
Held till December 21st. Next item on the agenda is PCO 1519 Sub A, an ordinance regarding health insurance for city employees. Councilman Lattiser and Councilman Marola, it's first passage as amended, and the committee report from ordinance.
Hold to November 16th.
Held till November 16th. Next item on the agenda is PCO 2919, an ordinance relative to tangible property tax regarding vacant storefronts. And that is now PCR 10320. And I believe it's favorable action or amendment, but well, finance, if you could give a recommendation.
Mr. President, I apologize. If I can interrupt, can the other people not speaking mute their microphones? There's a real bad echo. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Lattiser, could you move that?
Yes,
I'm sorry, could you make the recommendation, then we'll move it?
yeah, the recommendation was favorable action
For action, Council,
with an amendment.
with an amendment. For action, Councilman Sinapi.
Move for favorable action.
Seconded by Councilman McAllister, Councilman Lattiser, Councilman Ricks, Councilwoman Travis. I believe, Councilman, that we are all pretty much all co-sponsors on this, or?
That's right.
Okay, so the clerk will note that. And did you want to move an amendment, Councilman? And did you want to have one of the attorneys read it in the record, or do you have those?
If one of the attorneys could read it into the record, that'd be preferred.
So Councilman Sinapi is making a motion. Attorney Walsh will read it into the record. Could I have a second from someone on the amendment?
Second.
Councilman Ricks, Councilman Lattiser, Councilman McAllister. Go ahead, Attorney Walsh, if you could read the amendments.
The amendment was on page 1, line 44, to change the word corporate to the word commercial. That was the amendment.
Also, it was to change it to a PCR.
We'll make that as part of it too. Yeah,
It
to make
changes from PCO to a PCR.
right. Okay, so that's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions? If not, a yes is to approve the amendment, and the clerk will call the roll.
Marola,
Yes.
Mr. Corley,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser,
Yes.
Mr. McAllister,
Yes.
Mr. McElroy,
Yes.
Mr. Ricks,
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi,
Yes.
Ms. Travis,
yes,
9 yes.
Amendment stands passed. Councilman Sinapi, if you could move PCR 10320 as amended.
To move PCR 120 as amended.
Seconded by Councilwoman Travis, Councilman Lattiser, Councilman Ricks, Councilman McAllister. Any discussion on PCR 10320 as amended? If not, a yes is to approve, and the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Marola,
Yes.
Mr. Corley, Mr. Corley,
Your mic's not muted. Your mic's muted, Rick.
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser,
Yes.
Mr. McAllister,
Yes.
Mr. McElroy,
Yes.
Mr. Ricks,
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi,
Yes.
Ms. Travis,
yes,
9 yes as amended.
Okay, PCR 10320 stands passed as amendment, as amended. Sorry, that's right, PCR 10320. Next item on the agenda is PCO 3019, an ordinance involving state law regarding underutilized commercial property. That's first passage. It's not drafted. Committee report, public properties. Is that held till December 7th?
Correct. Hold to December 7th.
Okay, held till December 7th. Next item on the agenda is PCO 2-20, an ordinance relative to forming a commission to establish LED signage guidelines. That's first passage. It's not drafted. Committee report, ordinance.
Hold to the second meeting in January.
Held to the second meeting in January. Next item on the agenda is PCR 19519, a resolution relative to creating a commission to study health insurance benefits. Committee report, finance. I think that's held to December 7th, Ed? Yeah, your mic's muted.
Hold to December 7th, sorry.
Held to December 7th. Next item on the agenda is PCR 2820, a resolution supporting codification of the cancer presumption by the General Assembly that's not drafted, intergovernmental. Is that held to December 21st, intergovernmental? You have to unmute.
1221.
Held till 12/21. Next item on the agenda is PCR 3920, a resolution in regards to amending PCR 1-19 City Council Rules, Rule 30, docketing. That's not drafted. Committee report, intergovernmental. Is that also held second meeting in January?
Yeah, second meeting in January.
Held to the second meeting in January. Next item on the agenda is PCR 41A-20, a resolution addressing fiscal request for education for fiscal year 2020-2021. That's not drafted. Committee report, finance.
Hold December 7th.
Held to December 7th. Next item on the agenda is PCR 6920, a resolution relative to claims. Sean Lavoy. Committee report, public safety.
Committee recommends unfavorable action.
Okay, for action, I'm not too sure whose ward this is, so I'll go back to you, Councilman Sinapi, if you could move it for unfavorable action.
Committee moves unfavorable action.
Seconded by Councilman Howe. Any discussion regarding unfavorable action that we didn't have in the committee? If not, a yes is for unfavorable action, and the clerk will call the roll.
Marola,
Yes.
Mr. Corley,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser,
Yes.
Mr. McAllister,
Yes.
Mr. McElroy,
Yes.
Mr. Ricks,
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi,
Yes.
Ms. Travis.
Yes.
9 yes, unfavorable.
Okay, so that stands passed unfavorable for PCR 6920. Next item on the agenda is PCR 7920, a resolution for engineering to create Buckeye Brook project. Committee report, intergovernmental.
Second, move it to the second meeting in January.
Held to the second meeting in January. Under new business, PCR 9520, resolution in regards to erecting stop signs on the secondary roadways of Grimshaw Place, Hackman Place, Worth Street, Crystal Drive, and Lockwood Street. That's not drafted. Committee report, public safety.
Hold till December 7th, please.
Held till December 7th. Next item on the agenda is PCR 9620, a resolution in regards to erecting a stop sign at the northwest portion of Horseneck Road and Pinehurst Avenue. Committee report, public safety.
Committee recommends favorable action.
For action, Councilwoman Travis.
I move favorable action on PCR 9620.
Seconded by Councilman Lattiser, Councilman Howe, Councilman McAllister. Any discussion? I believe this is supported by a traffic study, correct, Councilwoman?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Is there any questions we didn't have in committee? If not, a yes is to approve, and the clerk will call the roll.
Marola,
Yes.
Mr. Corley,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser, Mr. McAllister,
Yes.
Mr. McElroy,
Yes.
Mr. Ricks,
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi,
Yes.
Ms. Travis.
Yes.
Yes, 9.
PCR 9620 stands passed. Next item on the agenda is PCR 9720, a resolution regarding ratification of the Cooper Building lease. Committee report, finance.
Hold November 16th.
Held till November 16th. We're on to unanimous consent.
Council
Warden-
President, if I may, the Attorney Walsh told me I should bring up now the reconsideration request.
Is that going to be under unanimous consent or?
I truly don't know. I think it's supposed to be right before that it comes up, but
Okay.
you'd know better than I.
Mr. President and Councilman, there was a discussion at committee on a particular item at Public Safety. Chairman Sinapi had a question about the reconsideration of an item that was dealt with at the last meeting. The item is PCR 6820, and it's a resolution relative to the claim of Mark Huell. The item was passed at that last meeting, unfavorable action by a vote of 7-1. Pursuant to the rules for anyone, because it was not put on the docket for this evening, we can't consider any action, but it is in order under Rule 27 to, should the council wish to put the item for reconsideration onto the next meeting's docket. So that was Councilman Sinapi's request. He was a member of the prevailing side of that motion, and it would need to be seconded by somebody else who was of the prevailing side. A successful motion at this time, if seconded and approved by the members of the council this evening, would then put this item for reconsideration on the next meeting's docket so that we fulfill the open meetings requirements.
So we need a second and a vote? Second and a vote. Okay. Councilman Sinapi, you're moving for reconsideration, correct?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Howe, Councilman McElroy.
Just for the record, Councilman Howe is unable to second the motion as he voted on the other side.
Okay.
Second.
Councilman Ricks has seconded and Councilman McElroy has seconded. Councilman Sinapi, before we call the vote, you just want to fill us in on this issue?
Sure. So basically the claimant contacted the clerk post-vote saying he had issues getting into the call, or I should say the meeting, during the time frame in which his bill was being heard. So, and he'd like the opportunity to speak on it, and I have no problem with that. Unlike some of the other people, he actually contacted us or tried to. So I have no problem offering the opportunity for him to do so.
And do you know how much the claim was for? How much he was making, the claim?
I recall it was pretty significant, actually. It was a claim for anywhere from $700 to $4,000 based on the estimates, although pretty much every estimate is $700 to $925 except for one, which is almost $4,000.
Was this a pothole damage or was it?
No, this is damage from a tree.
Okay. And it's over, it could be over 2,500?
It could be.
I'm just wondering, maybe Attorney Conley could refresh my recollection of when this gets referred to the trust. After we deny it? I can't hear you. I think you're.
Yes, sorry, I didn't unmute. Yeah. So, yes, it can be denied and referred to the trust.
If we were to vote no, but we're now voting for reconsideration.
Right.
Okay, so are there any questions from council members on the motion to reconsider? Okay, a yes is to approve, and the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Marola,
Yes.
Mr. Corley,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser,
Yes.
Mr. McAllister,
Yes.
Mr. McElroy,
Yes.
Mr. Ricks,
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi,
Yes.
Ms. Travis.
Yes.
9 yes to reconsider.
Okay, so the motion to reconsider passes. We'll move on to unanimous consent. Ward 1, anything for unanimous consent?
No.
Pass. Ward 2?
Pass.
Ward 3?
Pass.
Ward 4?
Pass.
Ward 5?
Pass.
Ward 6?
Pass.
Ward 7?
Pass.
Ward 8?
Pass.
And I pass also. Councilwoman Travis.
If there be no further business of this honorable body, I move to a docket session.
Councilwoman Travis moves to the docket session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We're now in the docket session. Ward 1, anything to docket?
No.
Pass. Ward 2,
Pass.
Ward 3,
Passed.
Ward 4,
Pass.
Passed.
I have one. Yes, I have one. Resolution in regard to erecting 2 stop signs on Suburban Parkway.
Council President, we can't hear you.
sorry. Can you hear me okay?
No, yes,
Okay. So Ward 4 passes, I think. Ward 5
passed.
pass. Ward 6,
I have
Tommy.
one. A
okay.
resolution in regards to erecting 2 stop signs on Suburban Parkway.
Public safety. Ward 7,
Pass.
Ward 8,
I have two. One's a resolution in regards to erecting a 4-way stop sign on Kenyon Avenue.
that's public safety.
The other one is an ordinance in regards to erecting no parking signs on Naples Avenue in front of the Starbucks parking lot facing westbound.
Okay, so that's also public safety. Ward 9 passes and the meeting's adjourned, and have a good evening.
You
Good
too.
evening.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Night, everyone.
Bye.
Good night. Thank you.
Night all.
Okay,
Happy birthday.
yeah.
Jim, I just noticed the mirror behind you. I like it.